Hello and welcome, everybody. Let us know if you can hear this. See, it's always annoying because you hit go live, and sometimes it's at the YouTube delay, and so it'll just be this, like, we'll just randomly come in this banter, and sometimes it works correctly.
Well, it also was difficult to even get the share link, so
yeah,
no one's responding yet in chat.
No,
so.
it's the standard issue, like YouTube 17-minute delay. So if you're new here to Level 1 news streams, if you do super chat or anything like that, we read them at the end of each segment. We got 3 segments. Normally the segments that we do throughout the week, we're going to do them all at once in 3 segments right now. So, and they say it's live. We can hear you. Krista,
hey.
Krista, audio check. Krista, test word. Krista, what's your safe word?
What's my safe word? I don't have one. I did.
So anything goes. You have no limits, is what you're saying.
No limits. Audio's fine. Okay, great. They got the vaccine. No, we're not that. We're like Z-list YouTubers. We don't get anything early.
Oh, from what I'm reading, you don't want to be early on the vaccine list because they paralyzed the guy.
Oh, wow. That's not good.
I wouldn't trust that right now. Like, I trust normal vaccines because they're literally vetted for like 10 years before they release to the public. This one, it's like, oh, we did some tests over a couple weeks. It's fine.
Yeah, they had to shut it down because they were like, oh, yeah, we paralyzed the guy. Back to the drawing board.
Anyway, today, starting off on a weird note.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
this is pre.
We had, what did you guys do with well, it wasn't really a week off, it was a day off, but we took the day off, the weekend off, and so I actually had a good time. It turns out, like, doing the Level 1 news every week, it's a little bit of oppression there. Maybe oppression's not the right word, but
it just burns your Sunday.
Yeah.
Because we do it in the middle of the day, and then we stream at night, so you really can't fit much in between there. Unless you want to get up super early. And who wants to get up super early on a Sunday?
Literally no one.
Except my neighbor who mows at that time.
I always hate it when the neighbor's like, let's mow at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, I was sleeping.
At 7 o'clock in the morning, he starts with the circular saw. He doesn't mow till like 8:39.
Oh, Seattle's smoky, says Robin D. Have the fire spread up there?
I think they're continuing to spread, yes.
We're getting the rain now.
It's a bad time.
It's a lot of rain.
It's been raining all weekend. I'm into it.
It's
You're into it? What about your outdoors activities?
I don't mind to go walking in the rain, especially when it's been so hot. It's September. It's fall. Let's act like it.
I don't know. It was like 90 degrees the other day.
Yeah. It's hot days, cold nights. It's the worst.
All right, let's get on with the news. We got a lot of news. Oh, we should have saved the one tabs, or pasted the one tabs into the thing. Krista can do that. You can paste the one tabs.
Yeah, I have a copy of it.
Yeah,
put it in chat so they can follow along.
Yeah,
sure. Why not?
Okay.
Some of them will be reading ahead of the class, like in grade school.
Yeah, and then they get confused. I used to do that.
And they'll ruin it for everybody. When we call on them to read, I don't know where we're at.
Well, now we sort of begin ignoring the chat, and we'll wait till the end. So
yeah, sorry guys.
So it's government and social media to start out with this week. Made a pretty even split. Short Friday, but that doesn't affect any of you. See, that's the advantage of watching it live. Oh, Chris, just let me know when you're back to your starting position.
I'm at the first story. I'm ready.
Oh,
I've got 3 monitors down here in this setup, so like it's easy to spread everything out.
My God, a technical wizard! And did you post that to the old
I
YouTube
did.
chat there?
Yeah, it's in there.
So, one thing that's on everybody's mind, whether you like it or not, I've started getting text messages from Mitch McConnell.
What?
I've blocked the number, but I don't know that will take effect.
Like directly from Mitch? Is he like, hey man, you want to go to Panera later?
Yeah, he's like, hey.
Also vote for me.
Hey dude, want to go to the aquarium? I love that place for some reason. So we are inundated with election information, and a lot of that, I guess probably all election information is misinformation, right? Because both sides are just lying to you.
Yeah.
So where do you get information that's not misinformation about the election? I don't know, but Google is doing whatever it can to try and seem like it's doing something.
The Bloomberg headline is Google blocks the search suggestions to stop election misinformation. And they just went ahead. The Google executive that was talking about this was like, look, a lot of random stuff's going to get caught up in this. Don't worry about it.
I saw some people did side-by-sides And they say they're doing it for both sides, and I'm sure that they are. And I'm sure there's a lot of negative Donald Trump Google autocompletes for sure. But they definitely scrubbed all of the like creepy Joe Biden stuff.
So all those great memes like Uncle Joe eating crowns.
I don't
From back in the Obama days. I remember those memes.
That's a great lead into our next story, because this story cost me so much time. Did you go down the rabbit hole of the stuff that the Kremlin has been posting? Like, I'm not even mad. It's brilliant. It's like insane. I mean, it's like, it makes QAnon look like, something that your elderly next door neighbor would have come up with.
Or you're accepting that it was definitely them?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
No, that's what we're told. And then you might be thinking, hey, what is this, 2016? Yeah, kind of just rehashing all the old memes, the same players, and the same story.
Daily Beast says the Kremlin hackers hit 200 political targets, including a key Biden campaign ally. So apparently this is all the misinformation, like, oh, he's not mentally fit for this, blah, blah, blah. You had the ones, this is the same group of people that said that something like he's going to fake getting COVID if he has to. Oh, I said it. No!
Oh, it doesn't matter.
We're live now. They can't stop us.
Yeah. The truth will come out.
They can't stop the super chats. But it was like that, and then that's how he would avoid the debate to do whatever. But that just seems insane. But the level of insanity here goes so far beyond what I would have expected. Like, it's almost like they've gotten writers. Like, like Stephen King comes up with some really clever stuff. They've got like the Russian version of Stephen King writing this stuff, because it's like, I know this is fake, but it's like the Weekly World News. It's like, I wonder how Bat Boy's doing. Is he doing okay? Has he been quarantining?
So the one piece of evidence I think they have is that Microsoft found out that a single phishing attack was launched against one of Biden's it's somebody that used to be in his cabinet, in the Obama cabinet, and then they started a private company for like election communication, and they got phished, but it was unsuccessful. And somehow that
translated into whatever.
It turned out to be 200 attacks. I don't know what they found there that then rolled on to the other stuff, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing it. Wouldn't surprise me if they were lying about it. And again, let's just go back. Let's get in our time machine and go back to 2016. Remember what a lovely time 2016 was, when all we had to worry about was corrupt politicians?
Now they've gotten clever with the technology.
And you thought that all of that controversy was over, and maybe we could just get started with the next phase. But no, we're actually still rehashing the original Russian controversy.
Yeah. Top Senate Republicans pressing for investigation on Mueller team phones being wiped. So the headline sounds amazing, but then you read into it, and it's literally just been the Mueller team that was doing the investigation for the 2016 stuff. It's been so long that they have accidentally reset their phones and blah blah. And it was like, oh, this can't be a coincidence. But it turns out that the time when the phones were reset or saved or whatever was all just different random times. So, I mean, they know they have a duty to preserve information, but at the same time, it's like, this is weird.
But it did happen a lot, and certain people did it over and over. Are they that inept at using technology? That's also concerning. Also, we do know about the two that were banging each other, that were constantly in amongst their sexting. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. We've got to stop him. Like Page and Strzok or something like that. They were part of this team. So we know there was a lot of anti-Trump sentiment going on inside the team, and maybe they could be hiding it, or maybe they're just idiots, or maybe both.
Probably both. But this is they should have preserved their phones, but this is more of or less of a nothing type burger than, I don't know. The headline is more sensational than the
actual
really.
Text.
As was the entire investigation, I believe. So, Trump, when he is not feuding with his political opponents, he is posting on Twitter and, in the process, feuding with Twitter. Because Twitter has taken the unprecedented step of labeling his tweets in negative ways. And now they've said they're going to do it more, which I can guarantee you he will not take lightly.
Ars Technica reports that Trump and Twitter are likely on a showdown path with expanded misinformation rules. Misinformation really is, it's like, okay, yes, obviously misinformation is bad, but it turns out that the truth is not black and white always.
What a terrible way to phrase that in 2020. Is this supposed to be like Orange Man?
I hate this image because look at the birds. They have frowny faces, but they still have beaks too.
But is that a frowny face or is that the top of the wing?
I don't think it's the top of the wing. I think that's supposed to be a frowny face.
Chat.
And it makes me uncomfortable.
Chad, is it a frowny face or is it the top of the wing?
It makes me so uncomfortable.
Maybe that's just a growth that's coming out the side of their heads. Maybe they're being sucked into the whirlpool behind them, and that's just their shape being distorted.
Why is Google lettering in here?
Because Google also made changes like we talked about before with the autocomplete stuff.
Oh, so I guess they were just trying to get more bang for their buck when they hired the illustrator. They're like, just put Twitter and Google in there.
Well, you see, there's an E in there too because Microsoft, I think, did the same thing.
Oh, perfect.
And are those Q's in the background? Is that God? There's a lot going on in this image.
There is. I think they just hired one illustrator and they're like, you know what? This should cover us for the whole week of stories. Just put everything in there.
It really is.
Well, we might not be hip to the youth culture. We might not understand TikTok. We might not understand Fortnite. But Chris is a little younger, but at least Wendell and I can kind of feel a little bit of the pain of some of the people at IBM. Because sadly, we're inching into their demographic. And it does seem like they got dealt a pretty harsh hand here. We thought we'd kind of heard the last of it because, what was it, like a year ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
That this popped up. But now the FTC is saying, you know what? We're ready.
The U.S., this is from ProPublica, the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission confirms a pattern of age discrimination at IBM. And so they found a guy, there's a lot to this story, and you should go read it if you haven't seen the old Level 1 news stories that we talk about. And the one they talk about in this story is a guy who was 57, and they fired him, and then they hired him because it was like, your skill set's no longer relevant. Get out. And then they hired him back as a contractor at lower rates. And it's like, okay, well, which is it? Are my skills no longer relevant, or are they just no longer relevant at the rate that you were paying? And so eventually they did lay him off. And so now he's a census collector or something. But there was one guy who was that we reported on the last time we reported on this, which I think was over a year ago. And that guy was like 6 months away from retirement. And it was like they just barely realized that he was 6 months away from retirement because you got to file a thing when you're like, I'm going to draw retirement in 6 months. And then they like immediately fired him. And so this is going to open the door for all those people to be able to have private lawsuits. Now, this organization is supposed to settle them, like try to settle them out of court, but they only have about a 50% success ratio. And after that fails, then these people can open up a suit. And I think IBM is going to take a bath on this because it's so blatant.
They supposedly have communications from high-level people in IBM basically saying, yes, clear out the old growth. Let's have a bit of a... Well, I shouldn't say that. That's really insensitive right now. I won't make that analogy.
I knew where you were going with it.
I think most people do. So, speaking of old problems that are resurfacing, the FTC all of a sudden, although that other one was, what's the EEOC? Something about Old People Commission. It's the Old People Commission. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That's what it is.
That's not old people. That's everybody.
It includes old people. Yeah. But this is the FTC, and so it turns out now if you had your taxes prepared, you probably paid quite a bit for that. And I think I was reading something that 1% of taxes go to tax preparation.
Yeah.
And if we eliminated that, we'd save the taxpayers billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, we actually have some rules about that. So the IRS in the past were like, why don't we just create a system?
Like every other country has.
Yeah, let people log onto the IRS website, just fill in their taxes. That seems like an easy thing to do. And all the tax prep software people were like, no.
Please no.
No, we're not going to do that. And so they kind of had a little back and forth, and they're like, listen, we'll offer a free program. Just don't offer your own free program. The IRS is like, all right, that sounds good because we really don't want to bother with that anyway. You offer your free one, that'll be fine, right? And then this happened.
ProPublica again reports the FTC is investigating Intuit over TurboTax practices. So we reported on this when it happened. We actually have screenshots and stuff because we were going to do a video on it. They created a free product, But then they made it so search engines were not allowed to index the website, and they did literally everything else they could to hide it. And if you just showed up on Intuit's website and were like, hey, do I qualify for the free program? The website was like, no. You do not. It's like, I am completely destitute and I have no money and I really probably don't even need to file taxes. Do I have to give you $50? Yes, you absolutely have to give Intuit at least $50 so we can do this for you, which is not actually true.
Yeah, a lot of dark patterns. And so now they're going to investigate this. And even if there's no punishment, what should happen is the IRS should look at this and be like, okay, we're building ours, because you guys can't be trusted to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, Krista, can you repaste the one tab into the comments? Because it showed up as
Are
a comment.
people-
Like, somehow comments are enabled, and so it shows up as a comment on the video, but not in live chat on the YouTube video.
Wouldn't that be better? Because it's
Yeah, I
more
posted
permanent?
it in the chat earlier.
It's not.
I'll post it again, but
Can you sticky it?
I don't see it. It's
not as the person I'm logged in as right now.
I mean,
Hang on.
well.
Yeah, if I could see it, but it's not here. It's gone.
So,
Don't you worry, chat.
oh, click,
I'll
click,
fix
click.
it. I'll log in.
Tweet it if nothing else.
Often, when you have a privacy-focused product, the only way that you can prove that it really works is when law enforcement and the courts get involved. For example, a VPN might get a warrant or a subpoena, and they might actually go to court and say, we cannot give you those logs.
See, also LavaBit. where
We
it's
don't-
like, we have to shut down because you're changing our infrastructure.
Yeah, we don't keep it. It does not exist. We can't give it to you. When you see that, you can be like, that's trustworthy, which gives a huge shot in the arm to Monero.
The IRS wants to buy tools to trace privacy-focused cryptocurrency, Monero. They're offering up to $1 million for developers who can create technologies to track Monero and Bitcoin Lightning Network transactions. So they're not going to give it all in one go. They're going to award this to a whole bunch of different applicants that, have different technologies to do this. And actually, Coinbase, the article mentions that Coinbase bought a startup company that was, had some very early versions of this kind of technology.
Monero does like 3 or 4 fakes with every real one, right, to throw you off. But I think somebody did figure out how to spot the correct one.
Yeah.
So I think this does exist, just not in an average IRS employee usable format, probably. So it might be a little bit lucrative to go hunt that up, make them a nice little UI. It's like putting a new plumbing system on the Death Star, but at this point,
just don't be on the Death Star for very long.
Portland. Boy, they're having some problems in Portland, aren't they?
A lot of problems.
And I'm not even talking about the fires at this point. This is the human problem.
The
in
only
Portland.
escalation would be Godzilla.
And so it's interesting because you got the pro-police and the anti-police and the conflicting, and the government still seems to be holding on to the anti-law enforcement line. And this is one that's really going to ruffle some feathers in the blue lives.
Portland passes groundbreaking ban on facial recognition in stores, banks, restaurants, and more. And it's funny because the meetings where this were passed, there were little representatives from each of those industries. Like banks, for example. Banks lobbied really hard to be exempted. They're like, all right, you can have your facial recognition banned, but we really want facial recognition inside our banks for security purposes. But no, it's all shot down everywhere. Even a private business is not allowed to do this. So like Starbucks can't do face recognition.
You can still have a camera though.
You can have a
Right.
camera.
You just can't run software.
Can't have the software.
Now, if you think that you've spotted a Portland business after this takes effect, I don't know when it's going to take effect, but after that date, if you think somebody is for sure using facial recognition and you can prove it, then you can actually bring action against them to the tune of $1,000 a day or your damages, whichever is greater. So this will work because there'll be an army of people. This will be like the slip and fall crowd.
I was going to say this is going to be like the ADA crowd where it's, in some places where it's like we need wheelchair ramps everywhere. And it's like, okay, what about the old buildings that were designed before then? It's like, doesn't matter.
What about the building that sells stairs?
Real fake doors.
That's not a thing. Across the pond, Ireland has decided to make some changes about their privacy. And this is a great story because Facebook is kind of crying foul with complete deafness to the irony that is TikTok.
The Wall Street Journal reports that Ireland is trying to order Facebook to stop sending user data to the U.S. Privacy regulators order is to suspend the company's data transfer to the U.S. cities concerns over the American government surveillance practices. But wait, what about TikTok? Is this also social? Do we have the social story next where it's like Facebook is suing Ireland to stop them from doing this?
Yeah, I don't know why I split them into the two because they are kind of the same thing, but that one is in the social section.
So yeah, the thing that you're alluding to isn't this exactly what TikTok is doing that we're freaking out about?
But well, it's even worse because we assume that China is looking at TikTok's data. Ireland knows that we're looking at Facebook's data because it's been leaked.
It's just it's the Spider-Man meme though. They're all just pointing at each other.
Pretty much, yeah. And I love to cover stories about the good old revolving door between big business and big government.
This one surprised me.
It's a dark thing that happens, and it's really interesting because you think about Amazon and Bezos, and he seems to be very opposed, at least to the current administration, and like they kind of butt heads a lot. But this shows that there is a little bit of coziness between Amazon and Big Brother.
Former NSA chief Keith Alexander has joined Amazon's board of directors. Alexander was the public face of U.S. surveillance during the Snowden leaks. Let me, you might not remember who he was. Let me give you the scene. It was Mr. Alexander. Does the NSA collect data on U.S. citizens? And he's like shaking his hand and he's rubbing his forehead and he's like, no, not wittingly, which was a lie. That was not actually true.
How do you unwittingly? Like, oh, we just built this database full of information about all our citizens. Oops, didn't mean for that to happen.
Well, I think their excuse was, we collected on everybody, but we're only trying to collect it on these terrorists. But it just happens to be everybody's in there.
Are you saying
we didn't know that? Although that would be wittingly, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you built it like that.
Yes, it would. No one, oops, I built this.
This article author speculates that the whole reason for this is the whole revolving door of government, which I don't think Amazon has really participated in, which is literally like maybe the reason they didn't get the Jedi contract is because they weren't working through the revolving door. I mean, early on, Oracle's business model, Larry Ellison, his literal business model was to just harass generals into giving him software development contracts. And it worked. It worked.
Well, you got to know who gets the duffel bags of cash. Because there might be a landmine in there. There might be an honest person in the government. There might be one. And if you step on that mine, you give them a duffel bag full of cash, you're ruined. So this guy's going to tell you, no, here's who you can buy. Here's how much they cost. Here's the percentage that you have to give me. And that percentage is a very high-paying board of director job.
Vic says that was actually James Clapper. Yes, that's true. It was not Keith Alexander, but still.
So speaking of Amazon, they're getting in the whole surveillance business. They're giving all of our information to the cops. We missed last week's opportunity because one of the greatest stories last week was the FBI were angry because it turns out that Ring doorbells could be used to surveil them.
Oh, yeah. I sent that story to you.
Yeah.
Boo, whore.
Wow. So, but, we got this constant surveillance, and now we have, big data getting into policing. And that's kind of the thing that Portland, that kind of thing they're trying to stop is like, no, this becomes a Minority Report pretty quickly, and that's a dark scene. And we don't have to speculate about that because it's happened, and it happened in Florida, which Florida's that weird mix of like high population, but still like down home country sheriffs, and it results in really dark stuff.
Pasco's sheriff is creating a futuristic program to stop crime before it happens. It monitors and harasses families across the country. A favorite quote from this article is, the orders to the police were basically to go harass these families until they move or sue. We don't want them around here.
So literally, you get a score. This is the social credit score. If you get arrested, your score goes up. If you don't show up for court, your score goes up. Even if your stuff is expunged, your score never goes down. And if any kind of interaction with the police, score goes up. And then when you hit a certain threshold, you go on the list. And they literally had cops whose whole job was to go and track these people down. And if they can't find you at home, they harass your family. Your family goes on the list.
Now, it's worth mentioning that for a lot of these people that are identified in this, they're underage, which means that they had a social worker assigned to check in on them periodically, which is not law enforcement. They were still doing that. These are also police officers harassing those people.
You should scroll down and see the picture of the horrible criminal they have at the start.
Well,
he
was
like a little 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, he was going to house stealing bikes. I'm all for just, crushing this human existence. That is you're not going to get anything good out of that. But the way they went about it was terrible. And they would do things like measure their lawn. And if it was, a millimeter over the county regulation, they give them a citation. If they left their garbage bins out too long, give them a citation.
That's some HOA bullshit. I hate that.
Exactly. And they would just do everything they could to try and crush these people's lives. And like you said, just leave. We don't want you here. You're a high number person. We don't want you here. Now to me, this is kind of like the traffic citation thing, right? If we all started driving the speed limit, what happens?
They'll find something else.
Exactly. So if you kept weeding out all the worst people and you got your numbers way down, you still have a police unit dedicated to this.
It seems to also be the case that when they encounter white-collar crime, let's call it, or any kind of diabolical crime, they're like, man, filling out the paperwork for this is just too complicated. I don't want to deal with this. It's like petty theft from the store. It's like, yeah, we can deal with that. It's like the store manager is literally laundering drug money through the store. It's like, that seems like a lot of paperwork. We'll just let that one slide.
Or, your grass is a little long. Let's make sure we get that on the books. Like, come on.
Well, it generates revenue. It's a lot like the traffic citation thing. They interviewed some cops who had since retired and were part of this. And they're like, every shift when we got back in, we were grilled. It's like, okay, how many high-risk contacts did you make today? Because they knew that generated revenue, and it was easy. It was easy policing numbers. So, unfortunate. The trade war continues to rage, and the one thing about the Chinese, that's a broad brush, Chinese government. Let's say the Chinese government. There's the whole idea of, looking good. Is face a Japanese thing or a Chinese thing? I can never remember. But they have the same kind of thing.
I think it's Japanese.
You can't look weak. You can't be seen to back down, no matter what happens. And it seems like they are playing that out to the maximum when it comes to the TikTok issue.
China would rather see TikTok U.S. close than a forced sale, according to Reuters. So the Chinese government has weighed in on the whole TikTok thing, and they're like, hey, guys, we can just shut TikTok U.S. down. We don't care. And the article goes out of its way to say that it's like the U.S., like, we've never actually requested data from TikTok. We don't actually care. I mean, yeah, maybe theoretically, but we don't actually care. You're getting your knickers in a twist for no reason.
Yeah. Who picks up if TikTok is just burned to the ground in the U.S., does Zuckerberg do everything he can to just clone it?
Yeah, they're probably already trying to clone it.
Yeah.
Don't they already have something like that? Isn't it like short?
The Instagram has like short videos now. Yeah. The Instagram, I say like an old person. Instagram has something similar to it, but I don't know how much that feature has taken off.
I would love, see, it would be great if we had enough money to pay two independent teams of auditors to audit like the Facebook, like Instagram, let's say, and TikTok, and see which one actually collects more data surreptitiously. Because my money's on Instagram.
Yeah, but it's not as good. Well, in the social section, we'll talk about their algorithm. That's the magic of it. Also in China, we find out that maybe one of the ways that you can beat the Communist Party in terms of censorship is to just be so valuable to them in terms of power and monetary value that they can't afford to shut you down. And that's what GitHub seems to have done.
In China, GitHub is a free speech zone for information about the thing that I'm still going to try to avoid mentioning, even though it's a live stream. So this is a Wired article, and it talks about how China actually did block GitHub because GitHub was unwilling to remove information, and that was before the Microsoft buyout. But after the Microsoft buyout, I think they also tried it again, or they also requested some stuff. But because there's so much stuff on GitHub that's useful to developers, and so much of the Chinese technical economy depends on open source software, that it's bad economically to block GitHub. So China's just like, all right, we'll do that. Which maybe begs the question, it's like, if China is doing those kinds of things, and they recognize that, hey, if we block this, we block a lot of things that actually help us, maybe as a government we could leverage that so that they don't, have the Great Firewall of China. Couldn't we do that with other stuff? Like block it on our side. It's like, oh, you're blocking CNN? Well, we're going to block GitHub.
But CNN has no value.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I mean, you need something that they need. And they're very busy building their own, like whatever it is.
Yeah, our government officials would love to get rid of the news.
Well, you couldn't just do one channel, though. You'd have to, because each channel serves a different portion of the government.
Unrelated, this is a great header image with the animation. That's really cool. I've been staring at it for 5 hours now.
Is this supposed to be an LCD screen that's been smashed?
I guess so.
That's the guy that spoke out about the virus, and then
I think when it first came out.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Did you guys see the headline? This is a total rumor, or it's not a rumor. We don't know if we can believe her, but there's a doctor who's somewhere hidden in the U.S. and she claims, I don't know when she's supposed to do it, but she claims she has absolute proof it started in the laboratory in Wuhan. And
How will she? How does she know? Is she from
worked
there?
She worked there, yeah.
That's probably a plot.
Well, she claims she worked there. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any way of vetting it, but
If that's true, then there's probably a vaccine.
I don't know. If you've ever read the terms and conditions for a piece of software or an online service, you probably didn't get all the way through it. What percentage of the population do you think's ever gotten all the way through one of those?
A very, very low number.
Remember the woman that finished the Microsoft one and then sent it back, and then had to go to court because they're like, "No, you bought it," and she was like, "Well, I don't agree," and it says if I don't agree, then I send it back. I think they lost that one. But one of the most egregious things in those terms and conditions is the unilateral changing of the conditions, which means that you agree to the conditions, but by agreeing to the conditions, you agree that Google, for example, can change the conditions at any time that they want to.
Without necessarily notifying you.
But you can't. You have no control. And some of the Italian politicians have been looking into that, and as you might guess, they're not fans.
Apple, iCloud, Google Drive, and Dropbox have been probed over unfair terms and conditions in Italy. Yeah, somebody in Italy is looking at this and saying, wait, what? But how much, you read into this and you think, how much of this do you think is really just a vector to extract more fines?
Some good might come of that, though. It's one of those rare situations where, the corruption and greed is good for the whole. Also, did someone take a picture of their phone?
Yes.
Yes, that's what that is.
Well, how lazy is this?
We do that with benchmarks sometimes. We'll just film the monitor.
Yeah, but this is Getty Images.
Somebody paid for that.
And probably a non-trivial amount because Getty Images is expensive. Let's just say I can never get a client to pay for Getty Images.
Belarus, so we have our protests here, and you know what? I'm not going to say the protests are not for good reason, and we don't have our own problems here. But when you look at what's happening in Belarus, you're like, yeah, maybe we should count our blessings.
Yeah.
Because they have a bit of a despot over there, if you believe the freedom fighters, which I think
there's some evidence
based on what I've read. I'm no expert on the topic. And so one of the things that happens these days when certain governments, ones that are a little bit totalitarian, get questioned, they always hit the same playbook. And it's super effective.
This is from Bloomberg. U.S. company faces backlash after Belarus uses its tech to block internet. So it's Sandvine. We've talked about Sandvine a lot on this program, and it's deep packet inspection. And the despots or the government in power has been using that to filter out stuff on the internet. And they responded for this article, and they said, "Oh, we're only filtering about 40% of the internet, and blah blah blah." But the engineers that work for Sandvine were like, "Wait a minute, are bad people using our software? What?" And so there was a little bit of a revelation inside the company that was, hey, maybe we shouldn't work with despotic leadership and governments. And Sandvine executives' defense was, "Oh, we've been working with them for years," which is not much of a defense in my opinion.
Well, they also pulled the whole Zuckerberg thing, which is like, we don't believe that we should be the gatekeepers of what represents, shutting down the internet or not. If they have a reason to do it, then why shouldn't we just leave it up to them? They're the politicians, not us. And they did like an internal, kind of like the Google emergency meetings, which like all hands on deck. Like,
meeting, yeah.
Listen, this is why we did this. But the quotes are not very convincing.
Wendell, did you slip up and say backsplash?
I said backslash.
Oh, I thought you said backsplash, and I was like, you're thinking about your kitchen reno, aren't you?
3 words that could go for that one.
I'm still working on the kitchen.
This story reminds me, remember that time that they put Saudi Arabia on the Human Rights Council?
Everyone was like, wait, what?
But then there's the meta from that, where it's like, oh my God, why would you put Saudi Arabia on the Human Rights Council? Look at the terrible things they've done to people. And then you're like, oh wait, look what we've done to people. We're on that council. So it's kind of like, the round robin of horrible governments.
China to launch an initiative to set global data security rules, according to the Wall Street Journal. This article actually is kind of fascinating, if not for like the ironic aspect. It's saying one of the things it seems to be saying is we need encryption that doesn't have backdoors. It's like, let's just come up with encryption that nobody has a backdoor to, and then you can be sure that everything is going to be secure. Like, we'll build the platform and do whatever, or you build the platform and build it to a standard that doesn't have backdoors, and then everybody can be safe. We'll audit your stuff, you audit our stuff, and that'll be great. And theoretically, that's probably a good way to approach it.
If you knew it would work and everybody lost the ability to surveil at the same time, you would keep an even playing field.
Yeah.
And you'd probably save a lot of money.
That was the whole idea in like the 90s and early 2000s with encryption technology and classifying it as a munition and blah, blah, blah. It's like all the big powers would agree that is basically an unwinnable situation, and we'll only give the weakened encryption to like the Irans of the world. But they all agreed to do it. And in so doing, they all agreed that everything would be secure from one another, and the stuff that was actually secure was basically classified as a munition.
But then they just constantly work to undermine it. Yeah. So, it doesn't work. No. One thing about China you got to give them credit for, I think definitely one of the things they have the upper hand when it comes to, China versus the U.S., is they can play the long game. I mean, they're playing, 4D chess way out in the future. They'll be long dead, but they still want to strengthen the mother party. I guess that is one of the good things about communism. If there is one good thing about communism, it is this sort of idea that, no, we got to not just worry about ourselves, not just greedily extract money for ourselves and our families. We must strengthen the core.
I don't know why what you're saying about that made me think of it, but do you think there's any chance at all that, like, do you think it would not happen, or do you think that all news of it happening would just be crushed immediately by the Chinese news media, and that is, I don't know, a gender reveal party causing a major fire in somewhere in China?
Well,
would that just never happen, or would you never hear about it?
I think you might hear about it because it takes the blame off of the government.
Yeah.
But you would never hear from those people again. And you know what? I don't hate that idea for those people.
I know, that's where I was going with it. And it's like, on the surface, it's like, no, we shouldn't be that way. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Or,
oh no,
I think maybe the best solution for that family, because we are now basically pressing prisoners into being firefighters. So just put them on the permanent firefighter unit. Wherever there's a fire in this world, fly them to it.
I was reading a story. I don't know if it's passed or anything yet, or if it's gone through all of the legislature, but like, I think in California they're talking about allowing people who get out of prison, like if they've worked on one of those fire crews, like they're completely eligible for employment, and like
that was signed into law. It was signed into law by the governor. It will expunge their record if they become a firefighter after they leave prison.
What if there's this hardcore pyromaniac?
Or he's like just an arsonist, and he's like, you know what? No, I could do this.
And not only is he not reformed, but he has learned so much. Anyway, what I was saying about...
It's the Hannibal Lecter of pyromania.
What'd you say, Crystal? We missed that.
No, I said I would watch that TV show. That's a good pilot.
Yeah, and like they can't catch him because now he knows so much about how to hide. Because like he worked with the fire investigation team somehow, like he was a porter or something for them. That is a good TV show.
I think we've got ABC's new fall hit show right
here. They keep calling him in because like no one's worked on more high-profile fires than you.
Maybe the arc of season 2 can be that there's an anonymous rival that rivals him in scope and complexity of all the fires that have been set.
Now you're just copying Dexter.
I was going to say, it's kind of like Dexter, but we would have to, differentiate it in some way.
So anyway, where I was going with all of that was the children. The Chinese children, they do seem to invest a lot in them, and they demand a lot of them because they want, they know that technology is such a powerful thing. But the other side of that blade is they are hyper aware of any westernization of those children, and they will do anything to stop it.
China has banned Scratch, MIT's programming language for kids. And this really does seem to be an anti-westernization thing because, or maybe they just want their kids to learn C++. I don't know.
There they are, learning hard. Yeah, and so they point out that the big thing, now you're thinking, okay, Scratch, do they have like some kind of Black Lives Matter banner on the page? That makes people angry, right? No, the big things they pointed out is when you register for Scratch, you choose your country. Guess what's in the country list?
Oh.
Taiwan, Macau, and Hong Kong. Those aren't countries, says the CCP, and you're done. You're out. So that's hilarious. There's a guy whose job is just go and check that.
Yeah.
For every registration page. And as we alluded to earlier, TikTok has finally made one of the big concessions. I don't think this is going to help them, but they're trying to do everything they can. Like, please just look. We're not spying on you. We'll show you everything. And the big step, something that Google has fought. I think Google would just burn the data centers before they would ever do this.
Inside TikTok's killer algorithm. So they're publishing information. They're opening up. They're saying, look, this is how our algorithm does what it does. This is how it works. This is the data that we need. This is what we're collecting. We're looking at how much you're watching, the thing that you watch, the things that you interact with, or you hover the mouse over, or that you.
You get your 8 videos to start.
Yeah. And
that's like picking your first Pokemon. And once you do that, they're like, okay, send them down that path. And I just refine that and refine that and refine that. They talk about you go into bubbles. And then like, okay, maybe you're really into the cat video bubble. And then, but your friends are into the lip syncing bubble and they watch some cat videos too. So let's just cross pollinate that a little bit, see what happens. And they talk about, it's like, well, isn't that kind of like just an addiction machine?
All roads lead to cat videos.
And they're like, no, it's not really an addiction machine. I mean, it's effective, super effective.
It's an endorphin machine. That's different.
But that's not really what's in question. What's in question is, are you stealing data? And doesn't really address that, I guess.
They're like, look how good we are at stealing people's data.
You know who I bet is reading that brief very closely? Facebook engineers.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
They're just like, oh, it's so obvious. We knew this. We knew this the whole time.
And again, I probably should have put this in the other section or put the other one into this section. But the whole Facebook Ireland thing, Facebook did not stay silent. They had an immediate response to that.
Facebook has fighting the Irish privacy watchdog's data transfer curbs. And so they filed suit to say, look, no, we're allowed to do business however we want. We're not violating any of the rules. We're following all of the, whatever. We should be allowed to do this. You're just singling us out because we're Facebook. We'll see. It's probably going to be tried outside of Ireland, but I don't think Facebook is going to be successful on this.
And speaking of Facebook, the problem with Facebook is that old people like it. And if you know anything about popularity and the internet, when the old people show up, you're done. You can't have them. My dad, an older gentleman, is on Facebook the entire day. And when I found that out, I was like, all right, Facebook's done. It's a good thing they got Instagram because it's over.
I was telling my mom that, and it's because she was doing something and she seemed like she was kind of depressed. And I was like, Mom, Facebook, just reading that constantly will make you depressed. And it was like she had this epiphany that was like,
What?
You're right. I never stopped to consider you're exactly right. So
My mom's a shit poster on Facebook. She sends me memes sometimes before I see them elsewhere in the wild.
I mean, It's just 1,000-yard stare of like self-realization. Like, maybe I wouldn't be so depressed if I stopped reading Facebook.
It's like the kid sticking the stick in the bicycle spokes of his own bike. So anyway, when the old people show up, the young people leave, because obviously if you're a hip young person, you don't want to post where grandma might be watching. And you don't want to have to unfriend grandma. That's just harsh. So Facebook, brilliantly, going back to its original concept, has figured out a way to exclude the old people.
Facebook returns to its roots with a campus, college student-only social network. Yeah, get wild with campus. What are you into? Look at this. Oh, we're having a hot tub party against quarantining rules. Woo!
Human soup. Get in it.
So like the old days, you have to have an edu email address to get in, and your Facebook is still associated with it, but it's all quarantined into just your college buddies. And you still, if you want to block people, if you have someone blocked on Facebook, it still filters down into campus. So it's not a whole new experience. It's just a special little place. It's a safe space for the college kids.
But reminder that people can still save your wild party photos off of here just as easily as they could off old Facebook.
And in fact, if I were going trolling for wild party photos, I would start on campus.
Yeah, I would. Do you still have an edu address? Could you log in if you really want?
I think they stopped. Like after we graduated, they started letting people keep them forever. But I wasn't allowed to keep mine.
I kept mine. I still have an edu address.
Oh, you're gonna get on campus?
I could.
Hey, fellow kids. Look at my pumpkin.
That's what I was going to say. Look at my garden.
They're like, are you going to fill that up with vodka?
Bruh.
And speaking of the election, here it is. We're what? How many weeks away? 50 days away or something like that? The madness crystals are starting to solidify. And so Facebook realizes that it gets people all twisted up, makes them miserable, and so they're saying, "Hey, what would happen if people just didn't have anything to do with the election?"
I thought this was hilarious.
And I don't know. I don't think it's enough monetary value for a Facebook addict.
No. Facebook will pay users to log off before the 2020 election.
Wait. Since we have a live chat, guess the amount in the next 30 seconds. Although they have the one-tap link. Somebody's going to cheat.
They have the one-tap.
Yeah, they have the one-tab link, and YouTube runs like a minute behind. So some of them are responding or commenting about things we said like 20 minutes ago. So
why is there a frog on here?
Just, I don't know.
I'm captivated by him, though.
I thought it was anybody, but if you
No,
read
they're
into
gonna
it,
choose
yeah,
you.
it's like, I've been chosen.
So it's been long enough. It's $120 for what? 2 months? Well, it have to be 2 months, right?
Well, it's the end of September until
November
3rd
or whatever.
So it's like 5 weeks.
Yeah, you got to shut it down, and you don't delete your profile. Obviously, they don't want to delete their users. You just have to stop using it for that amount of time for $120.
Everybody is guessing like $3 to $5.
No, I mean, they're
jaded
paying
audience.
a decent amount. Like, if someone was like, you can't look at Facebook for like a month and a half for $120, I'd do it.
Yeah, one person said like $500.
Well, I would do it for the rest of my life, but I would have to make an account.
Mel Gibson's here. He cheated though because he got it exactly right.
Yeah, well, he's good at that. So, yeah, $120. I'd take it if I were you. If I get offered, I would take it.
I'm going to log into Facebook just to see if I got the offer, which is the first time I've logged in years.
I will end on a sad note, but an important one. This is an issue that's close to my heart because I feel that someday, I'm going to be in a situation, not as bad as this guy's, but I'm going to be old. I'm not going to have any family. I don't want to go to some nursing home. The horror stories of that are just horrific.
I would go to the nursing home to make sure that it's not going to be like a Bubba Hotep style adventure, and then I would be like right where this guy is.
Yeah, it's not. I guarantee you. It's an adventure, But it's more of like a Deliverance style adventure, I would say. Less Bubba Hotep. Anyway, it's all about the right to die. Now in France, you do not have the right to die, no matter how bad off you are. This guy wanted to make a political statement, and he was stopped by none other than Mark Zuckerberg.
Facebook stops French man from streaming his dying days. So he's got a rare blood disease, and without his medicine, he will die. And so he's done. He doesn't want to go on living anymore. So he's going to stop taking his medicine, and probably by the time...
Not just his medicine, he's going to stop food and water.
And probably, by the time... Like, we'll probably have this sliced up for next week. You're watching it live. I think he's still alive. But he's probably not going to be alive for very much longer. And Facebook was like, oh, this is basically suicide. We're not going to allow you to stream suicide. So
but he's saying, no, it's not suicide. That's the point.
Yeah.
They could pump me full of sedatives. I probably wouldn't last 2 days, and I wouldn't know anything about it. But instead, I'm going to die horribly and slowly. And you should have to watch that because of your stupid laws. What's that noise, Chris? Is that the dog?
Yeah, we just went over and got a drink. There she goes. Hi, dog. No, she's just sniffing the carpet. Sorry.
What do you think's on that carpet that she's detecting?
I don't know. Sometimes she'll just sniff something and she gets like really set on it.
That was the last story. Could you bring her over and showcase her a little bit?
Oh yeah. Actually, if that's the last story, then I've got a bunch of super chats, and the first one is how's Rue and the kittens?
Rue's great.
That's from MB is Frenchie.
They're not kittens anymore. They're big fatties, and they never stop meowing. Oh my God, it's just around the clock at this point. It gets worse every day.
PH Gamer, the first of many super chats, says, "Don't see the link in the chat." Luther Gaylord says, more importantly, where did Ryan find disinfectant? I think they're talking about the Lysol wipes. The chat was really enamored with the Lysol wipes.
Yeah, they were.
These are pre-COVID wipes.
Oh, you said it again.
But I did find at Meijer the other day, I caught them on a restock, got a 2-pack. Oh, it was like having gold in your hands.
Eskin Monster says, happy to see you all. Here, have some money for the thing. Thank you. Nixter Magister says, only 7 minutes before the first slip into demonetization. Oh, yeah. Samuel Millett didn't say anything, but thank you. Pup Shepherd says, boop, wags, arf, arf. Was thinking if you do super chats, what do you think of the Ubiquity products? We use their switches at work. They are okay. We're using it. This stream is running on a Ubiquity access point, although I've been messing with Ingenious products lately because the Ubiquity stuff's been kind of buggy, kind of not handling their firmware updates well, kind of not handling some of their older models well, in my opinion. I'm going to do a video on that. PH Gamer again says, the government can take my facial recognition AI when they pry it from my cold, dead hands. I guess he's running his own facial recognition AI. And also time to bring back the killdozer for those small government busybody types, I guess. Ignacio Martinez.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting question. If you never told anybody about your facial recognition, you get away with it. But then you get into a point where it's like, how bad does the crime against you have to be before you reveal it?
Or it's you do the whole plausible deniability thing, which is standard issue now in the U.S. Like, oh, I got a tip that it was this person that robbed my store. And it's like, how did you figure that out? It was an anonymous tip. Meanwhile, the AI software was like, here's his driver's license.
There's a great movie, like an alcoholic detective is assigned this crazy case of murder, and it's because the store owner knows, but they can't say that they know because they have illegal facial recognition. So they're trying to feed him these little clues anonymously.
But he's an alcoholic.
And it leads him on a big, wild chase.
Ignacio Martinez says, first stream for me. Saving face is an Asian thing in general, but it's pretty prevalent in both China and Japan. Derek Wilfong says, what's a good fingerprint scanner? One of the ones that's your whole finger on a piece of glass, not the swipey kind. Michael Thompson says, hi. Martin Parker says, hi, been watching since before times. Do you think the latest CPU, GPU releases will lead to innovation or laziness given the cost of game development? Probably some innovation. Paco says, here's for a cup of water, I guess. Luxor1 says, what's your opinion on the new Australian law forcing Google and Facebook to pay Australian news outlets, give them unlimited access to YouTube algorithm? I think we covered that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. The short version was basically, I think Google nopes out. I think they just they're
everybody.
like
I think everybody does. I don't think Australia's a big enough market for it to matter.
yeah. PH Gamer again says, what about 50-year-old college students? They might need the age restricted. Also, I still have access to my EDU email. Well, when I was in college, the creepiest people were the people that were the 50-year-olds that showed up at the parties.
With their EDU, yeah.
And it was like...
And they would spend so much time on their projects, and they were so well prepared, and they would destroy the curves. I hated those people.
And they would also, like, you would be at the end of the class, and they're like, does anyone have any questions? And they'd be like, did you forget to assign homework? And it was like, oh.
Colostomy Bag says, thanks for doing this live.
Oh, thanks, Colostomy Bag.
Thanks, Colostomy Bag.
Afifi96 says, hello from Belgium, where we had an election 630 days ago and still no government resulting from it. Things are still fine. Hello, glad that you have internet. That's good. Sandvine has not filtered your packets. That's a different country.
That's Belarus. I was going to say, getting offensive people there.
I did that with James Clapper, too, but it was, the whole Clapper, Keith Alexander. That's a thing. Look it up. Malto Nitho says, yay, live stream. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks.
We're almost ready to move into section 2, which is going to be business and what?
Security.
Rue really wants... I have pumpkin seeds that I was going to show the chat that I made from my pumpkin that we roasted and been eating, and Rue really wants one.
Has she had one before? Is that why she's excited?
Yeah, she keeps getting in my lap and trying to push the chair over to get it.
Do you think she would kill you to get it?
I don't think she'd kill me, but she's happy to just move the chair and climb in my lap to get to it. She's now interested in the carpet again. Also, I saw a question earlier. Someone asked what chair I have. It's from IKEA. I'll post a link. I looked it up earlier. Hit me with that one tab when you're ready.
There's the link. Oh, yeah, you'll have to post that again, too. I can't get to it from here.
Yeah. I've had this chair for 3 years. It's been pretty solid.
I forgot to read this one. Did you read this one?
Yes.
I missed it somehow.
Greetings from Finland. Hello. Was tasty.
Yeah.
I made him into puree, and I got about 2 cups of puree from him. But I haven't used it yet. I haven't decided if I want to make pumpkin soup or if I want to make pumpkin cookies yet. But I have been eating the seeds.
Oh, man, I've got a pecan pie downstairs.
Like a freezer one, like the little one, or like a full one?
No, a little. It's like one of the little snack size ones.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Maybe after dinner.
Do you so you know how we're having shortages of certain things right now? How do you think that'll affect Thanksgiving?
I think that Thanksgiving, by the time Thanksgiving gets here, it's going to be like, here's this can of beans that I found from September of 2016.
The before times. Here's the one tab chat. I'm going to go through and open these.
Alice the Night Shadow is calling for a TrueNAS build. Yes, Ryan and I have both been working on the 2 different forks of TrueNAS. I'm doing TrueNAS Scale. Ryan's working on TrueNAS Core.
Although it won't be a new build. It'll be the same old piece of hardware we used last time. Works fine.
Listen, Intel's been selling us the same CPU for 5 years now. It's fine.
You don't need to throw hardware at that. It's fine. Let's see if these are in the correct order.
Be sure to grab that one tab, which was just posted, because in 5 minutes people are going to be like, I don't have the one tab. It's like, well, you got to scroll. You got to get it now if you want it.
Let's put that at the end.
Full-blown apocalypse food. I've been stocking up on some canned goods.
Oh, I just realized I rearrange stories after we give out the tab. Whatever.
Oh,
you guys can adjust. You guys can adjust.
Roll the dice.
You're going to be panicking.
They're all about the same topic. The first 3 stories are about the same topic, so just, be ready to call an audible there. Chris, that goes for you too.
I've reached my free article limit on Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
When I put them in there, I don't read them immediately. When I read them, I Google News and find a good alternative, but then I'm too lazy to go back and change it. because I do it on the tablet and it's a pain in the ass because there's no keyboard attached to it.
Every now and then I'll get an alternative version of this story, and it's like the completely other. Like,
yeah. Let's show you the spin
yeah,
on the modern news. That's real bad. Vice is real bad about that. And
I've noticed Motherboard also doing it a couple of times.
no, that's Vice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Vice bought Motherboard. Sometimes it's on Vice.com. Sometimes it's on Motherboard.
When it's, like kind of 50-50 government and tech, I think they go with the big site. Waiting on you, Krista.
What? I'm
You
done
good?
with the WhatsApps.
You ready?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if they're in the right order now, but
Well, you just the first three. Just click around.
I'll be fine.
We'll start. They're kind of all about the same thing, and I'm not sure what the timeline is exactly here.
Well, we're 1 hour and 3 minutes in, which is where we're going to cut it for Tuesday, because we're probably going to cut these like normal and make them live. So this would be Wednesday's news.
Let's make it easy on the editor.
Yes, we are flexing with the Lysol.
So, Apple and Epic are in a bit of a tiff. They're angry,
Putting it mildly.
and they keep lobbing grenades at one another. Now, the timeline for this, so we didn't do the news last week, so it's kind of hard to. But anyway, lawsuits are going in both directions, and they're both cutting each other off from their respective softwares to try to make life harder. So we'll start with the latest Apple retaliation.
Apple doubles down in fight with Fortnite creator Epic Games and now seeks damages for breach of contract. Apple is out for blood here. Damages is like lawyer fees and all the nonsense, blah, 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 but also $600 million. Apple doesn't come right out and say, we want $600 million, but they do say that they would like to get back some of the money that they have paid Epic over the years, and then somewhere else they mentioned that was $600 million.
And anything that Epic has, all the accounts Epic has gained from trying to bypass.
Yeah.
They want that 30%. They want their pound of flesh. And because of all of this, back and forth, Epic has said, well, what can we take away from Apple? And they have decided that they can take away this.
Epic Games accounts won't be able to use Apple's sign-in system as soon as September 11th.
Which has already happened.
Yeah, you'll need to change your login credentials if you use sign-in with Apple. So you can't sign in with Apple anymore.
So if you are a Fortnite user with sign-in with Apple, you didn't realize this, you didn't get the email, guess what? Now you're going to have to go through Epic support and hope that they will help you individually get your account back. Otherwise, hope you didn't buy very many cosmetics.
I really like that Epic is telling the people to open a support ticket with Apple, which is basically tantamount to harassment because Apple support literally cannot do anything about this because it's top-down policy. I think that's not going to work out for Epic in the end. I think when it finally does make it to court or whatever, and the judge is looking at it, and it's like, you told people that were coming to you for support to go to Apple for support, knowing that Apple couldn't do anything. And it's like, well, technically they could do something. It's like, yeah, but Apple first line support, they can't do anything.
They're going to read off of an index card for the 1,000th time that day.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for them.
They work for Apple. They deserve it. And Apple, so Epic is certainly not the only company who is unhappy with Apple. And there's a lot of good reasons for them to be unhappy because Apple really does want a piece of literally everything. And I think in an effort to not lose this case just on the grounds of being a monster, they're taking some tiny little baby steps back.
Apple loosens App Store rules a bit after developer backslash. Backslash. I did it again. It's Backlash. So we talked about this a week before last. So if you are Steam and you want to stream arbitrary games, I mean, that's okay, kind of. But remember, Apple went through the whole headache thing with Steam, Valve, and Apple did, like, it was really problematic. Then we got Google Stadia. Google Stadia can't have an App Store app unless all of the games are approved individually. That's still true, but this restriction eases that just a little bit.
Well, you couldn't stream before.
Yeah.
You had to download your game to the phone and run it from the phone. And Stadia was like, are we a joke to you? This is our business model. What are you saying we can't do this? And they're like, listen.
And also, remote desktop was okay.
It's against the rules. And Microsoft had a service, and I think Nvidia actually has one too. So now you can do that, but you must still have the games individually.
Yeah. So Apple can approve the games individually.
So you can't like just have a service like a Netflix of games, which is kind of like what Microsoft's getting into with this next generation of consoles. You can't do that. Each game must be individual, although you don't have to download the game to the phone. You can now stream it to Stadia.
How long before Apple is like, we need to individually review Netflix titles to okay them for Netflix?
You think they'd approve cuties?
No.
That's been a fun story to follow this week. I didn't put it in here because Jesus Christ.
The other aspect of this is also education stuff. So like if you're a university or something and you're posting classes online and you got an app or before that was not allowed unless the content.
Well, they got their 30%. It was allowed.
Well, yeah, but now they're not taking 30% from stuff like that.
But that is just if you do it individually. If you have a class of a bunch of people, I think you still have to pay, which is just crazy. Like the rules that you have to delve into, you have to have a lawyer basically. Yeah. To be on the app store.
It's enough to make me have a distaste from ever using Apple products.
You didn't already have that?
Well, I mean, it's just another in a long list of things that...
Someone needs to make a better Apple Pencil that's not on Apple.
That's like over-salting the turd.
At this point, it is in a lovely crystal. It's preserved forever.
Oh, the texture is amazing. But at the end of the day, it's still a turd. So most of the industries are not doing great, but the big tech industries, of course, in these dark times, these most difficult of times, as the phrase goes, are doing great. And they're doing some big mergers and acquisitions. In fact, this one is lining up to be the biggest tech acquisition in history.
SoftBank near a $40 billion deal to sell ARM holdings to Nvidia. So that's proceeding on. Now, I think that Nvidia's main interest with this is just data center. Data center, data center, data center. But, we'll see.
No one is saying anything yet other than the press, but the whole antitrust sword of Damocles is certainly dangling there. To worry about that.
Yeah.
There seems to be no limit to the number of existing inventions that Elon Musk will say that he can do better.
This article doesn't deserve a lead-in at all. This article is literally somebody making an entire article out of one tweet. One tweet from Elon Musk.
But in the tweet, he definitively says he is going to do this.
Yeah, that's literally all he says.
Now, it could be pointed out that he has been known to lie pathologically on his Twitter.
He really is it's so frustrating because I was like, oh, this could be a thing. Has he got some ideas here?
And there's literally nothing. It's a tweet.
There is nothing of substance here. Shame on you, TechCrunch. Shame on you. Elon Musk says that Tesla will one day produce a super efficient home HVAC with HEPA filtering. So what this is like this guy, is like, oh, your air here is very unhealthy. And he's in his car, and his car is in like the biogen, like the car has a bioweapon mode where it maintains positive pressure, so it filters all the air, which is really important if you're in the northwest of the United States right now because the air quality is really terrible because everything's on fire. So
really, just the whole West Coast, not even just the Northwest.
Yeah, and so this guy's inside his house, and it's like really high particulate levels, and it's like, man, I wish that the house had the same level of filtration as the car, and he just tweeted that, and Elon Musk is like, yes. That's it. That's all this was. That's it. That's literally it. So dumb.
And kind of along that same line, you get the sycophants who will print anything he says and drool over it. And you get the haters who will print the shortcomings that he has and agonize over them. And this is an example of that, although it is funny because they did do something kind of low rent here.
Model Y owners find cooling system cobbled together with Home Depot grade fake wood. So it looks like they just put corner trim like for a
and
strap.
Not even nice corner trim.
No.
Particle board. Now they do point out that in a previous iteration here, this is like the good version. Presumably, now there might have been a problem with this. Like maybe wood is better than plastic, but it seems like the good version uses these parts, and they might have just run out of them because you remember they were doing the big crunch to get those Model Ys out, and someone might have just run down to Home Depot.
Yeah. It's that's basically a big heat sink, and that's just a strap to prevent the heat sink from bouncing around too much. That's all that is.
Or from shearing the cable that holds it into place.
Yeah.
Something about seeing wood in a car engine. Just, it's not right.
And it's also a $60,000 car.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, nah. Tesla continuously updates your car over the air. That sounds fun, right? But, of course, as we are all PC users, we know how bad that can turn out. And it seems like they are using it to control a little bit more than a lot of their clients would enjoy.
Tesla can detect aftermarket hacks designed to defeat EV performance paywalls. You wouldn't download a car, but could you download a free performance upgrade?
How obviously 3D printed is this?
Oh, that's the response. So there's a company that makes a module that'll unlock a bunch of the stuff that's locked in your Tesla, including the accelerated performance mode. But then somehow Tesla was detecting that. And then they figured out how Tesla was detecting that. And that's the Nice Try module. So you can install the Nice Try module, and it'll make the previously detected hack undetectable once again.
So that gives you the what do they call it? Do they call it plaid mode or
no? It's like
mode,
this is the Model Y, so I think it's just like the boost or whatever.
That gives you the crazy 0 to 60. Now your car's already capable of that because you got the dual motor, but it's a DLC. It's an unlock.
Yeah.
But this thing also unlocks a huge amount of other cool features.
Rear heated seats,
automatically opening doors that detect your presence. There's a couple other little quality of life things that Tesla will nickel and dime you for, but they're already in the car.
Yeah.
And of course, Tesla, not fans of that. Now, they're not sure if he was still able to drive the car, everything worked normally, but the little message here never went away. You couldn't clear it. And no one knows if that's calling home or not, although I would say.
Yeah, probably.
It's got to be.
I can't wait to get to the nonsense story where they talk about how, hackers and your right to repair. This is like literally Elon Musk spying on every single car.
So it's kind of crazy, and I didn't really think about this till I read the story. But remember 2019, it was just 5G, 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 5G. And then 2020 came along and a little something happened, and no one was worried about 5G anymore.
No.
And building those towers kind of just went by the wayside. All of a sudden, not a priority. But it is still out there. And if you remember, AT&T was the first to roll out 5G.
They didn't really roll out 5G.
They were the first. And so now we are at the point where they are selling 5G phones. For a long time, you couldn't even get those. And so someone went out and tested.
Ars Technica went out and tested AT&T's
PC,
current, or
PC
PC World. Oh, yeah. AT&T's current 5G is slower than 4G in nearly every city tested by PC Magazine.
So they point out it's not down to 5G being bad. It's the fact that the phones and the service cannot provide enough spectrum to each user to give them the benefits of 5G.
Yeah.
So to the end user, does that matter? No. What matters is your phone is slower than the new phone that you bought, just so it was faster on this blazing new network, is slower.
It's also true that AT&T just relabeled 4G LTE in some areas to be 5G, 5GE. It's like 5G Live.
But this is their legit 5G.
But again, to your point of like users don't know.
Now they pointed out that Verizon's was incredible speeds, but almost impossible to find. Very little coverage.
It's working great right outside Verizon headquarters. Oh, look at that. I've used my month's data cap in 5 minutes.
If you'll go and stand on the corner next to the burning Starbucks, amazing speeds. Incredible. Just, the heat will get to you after a while.
Don't worry about that warm sensation. That's just the cancer forming.
Another big hot item that we heard about all last year was Microsoft. What was the name of their dual screen operating system? X?
Windows X, yeah.
Windows X, it's going to be just for dual screens. We're going to have this whole line of amazing dual screen products, and we got this new operating system just for those. It's going to be incredible. And then they finally came out with their dual screen tablet, and guess what they put on it? Not
Android.
Windows X. And so that's been reviewed to a tepid, I can't think of the word.
Response?
Maybe.
Wall Street Journal, Microsoft Surface Duo review. 2 screens, too many problems. So I watched a lot of reviews on this because I was kind of excited about it. If you watch the Microsoft Courier tablet demo from 10 years ago, it's a decade old. It's really incredible, like their vision for what a dual screen device should be. Surface Duo, that ain't it. And it's got some promise, but it's got a lot of rough edges. It's a nice form factor. The hardware's nice. It's really thin. The battery life's reasonable.
It's interesting because they point out that there's really no way to hold it effectively except like a book.
Yeah.
Which is a way that you never think about using a computer.
Yeah.
But it could be good.
It might be good eventually.
I don't know. I just every time I see any of these foldable sort of devices, I'm always like, who asked for this? I guess I don't know what's the use case.
In the Courier Courier demo, they had like a real world use case of like somebody walking around with a device like that and using it. It's just that you can't do any of the stuff that they demoed in the Courier demo 10 years ago with the Surface Duo.
Yeah, it's basically just, another annoying Android device that will be antiquated in 4 years because Android.
Yeah. I get the Lenovo Flex, which is it's not a dual screen device, but it's glass on both sides. The screen on one side and then like a touch glass keyboard on the other side. And initially it was amazing, and Lenovo immediately abandoned ship with software, and it's just a buggy mess now.
So if you go on Amazon these days and you punch in a common item, you're going to get recommended an Amazon Basics version of that
Don't
item.
buy it!
And they are very reasonably priced, and they always have glowing reviews.
No!
But the reviews might not be the only thing that's glowing.
Dozens of Amazon's own products have been reported as dangerous, melting, exploding, or even bursting into flames. Many are still on the market. Like, don't even bother reading this article. Just play the Benny Hill music in the background, go to YouTube, and search for Amazon Basics microwave, because the microwaves seem really problematic. This chair caused a house fire.
Well, it was this
the
the
charging cable.
USB, yeah.
And so it set the chair on fire because the cable overheated. Oh yeah, no, this is amazing.
Microwave.
The microwave catches on fire.
There's
a lot of those.
Someone actually, I think there's an ad here. Someone actually held on to this microwave. So most people just throw these things away. But this person was like, no, I held on to it. So they sent this microwave to, they're not going to get to it there, to a testing lab. And the testing lab looked it over and they're like, well, I see a problem here that might be the problem, that grease could collect here. There's not enough shielding here. And I see a couple of things that could be the problem. Let's plug it in. And it just like sparks showered him.
Yeah, again, Benny Hill music, just go to YouTube. It's amazing.
This was a car charger. Comes with smoke.
I've ordered a fair number of Amazon Basics DisplayPort cables. They're all trash.
Yeah, I've got some USB cables. Here's the guy testing the microwave.
Oh, let's see, Maud. It's sparking.
And it turned out that the testing lab was actually shut down because of the virus. So they can't test a bunch of these things. Here's one of them.
Wait for
watching
it.
these videos is so like anxiety inducing.
Wait
Because
for
it's gonna.
Is that normal? Should it be doing that?
That'll get your oatmeal done really rapidly.
I'll have some oatmeal with a side of plasma.
There's some results of it. So yeah. Now, most of these seem like they're okay. This is not like every one of them is blowing up, but how many, like one out of every how many is okay to set fire to? I think it's got to be a really low number.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Amazon Basics is just rebranded Chinese.
Yeah.
So
Garbage.
A lot of stuff is. I'm not saying that Chinese can't make some decent stuff, but I'm saying that Amazon Basics. Amazon is not making these products.
We had an Amazon Basics DisplayPort cable that literally, if you just it was plugged in, and if you just pushed down on the wire and it was bent more than the monitor would just turn off. Like the monitor wouldn't go to sleep. It caused a short or something. The monitor would turn off.
So yeah, maybe pay the extra $1.
After seeing all these videos, yeah, it's worth it.
Now, if the 2020 is too much for you, I understand a lot of people, you just can't handle it. It's such a bad year, and we haven't even gotten to the election yet. Man, it's only going to get worse, no matter how that plays out. And you're thinking to yourself, God, if I could just go back to the 90s. It was such a happier time.
Was it?
Maybe this can bring you some joy.
The Gateway PC brand returns with the new laptops, starting at just $179 at Walmart.com and in stores. So,
I think
And
my computer was a Gateway in the late 90s.
these are basically just budget pieces. I think they go up to like $1,000 for the nicest one. And yeah, if you're the question that everybody's on everybody's mind, is it going to be in the cow box? Yes.
Oh,
Cow box is back.
what was their slogan? They had like a catchy slogan. I
I
remember.
don't even remember.
I don't remember, but
Now, if you're wondering, well, did Gateway just like come back from the dead? What happened here? No, Acer bought Gateway, and Acer still owns Gateway. These are Acer laptops. They're just branding them Gateway to try to get the nostalgia dollar.
also, I think that they're really cheaply made, and Acer doesn't want to ruin their brand.
That could be a good thing.
it's definitely a product launch because everyone's going back to school virtually. They needed to dump something on the market.
Now, the electronic vehicle market is a hotbed of drama. They have the kind of people who engage in those debates and post on those forums are some of the darkest form of humanity. I would say maybe slightly worse, maybe millimeters, but slightly worse than the Linux channel. And they have like the short sellers are out there and the sycophants are out there, and they're constantly, it's like the protests. You know, they're constantly fighting each other and burning buildings. And when the blood is in the water, oh boy, do they go after them. And it seems like there's like several pints circling at Nikola.
Nikola's house of cards crumbles as GM acts like nothing is happening. So this electric article, it doesn't explore this, but where they were, I was expecting them to go for this was different. But basically, Nikola, they've gotten a lot of investments. They said they were doing their own batteries. They said they were doing their own this, that, and the other. They did a demo with a semi, and it's all fake. It's all falling apart. The Electrek makes just a devastating argument against the company, and it seems like fraud. They're probably gonna Milton. I think is that the guy's name. They're probably going to bring up the Milton guy on fraud charges. It's
not Electrek that's saying that. It's an investment firm that shorts them, that did a lot of research.
Yeah, they really did.
And but they do short them, so they have skin in this game. I remember when we did this story originally, like they had this truck, and that guy in the presentation, you could watch it. He was like, "Listen, I made sure they put double locks on this thing because you could jump in there right now, and drive it off. We couldn't do anything to stop you." And there was an engineer that came out later, and he was like, "No, it doesn't run. We towed it onto the stage. That was a complete lie." The other thing he said was, "Our inverter is amazing new technology. You've never seen an inverter like this." And then we have it here. It's actually just someone else's inverter that they put a piece of tape over.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's not good. So GM, for their part of it, they didn't really respond, but how cynical do you have to be to say the GM's whole reason for investing, it was just subterfuge? Like they probably did their own investigation. They probably knew. It still worked for them. I mean,
They got a headline, right?
What GM has done with their electric vehicles so far has basically failed. So
I gotta say, as much as I'm a Tesla hater, all of the competition that you thought would strip away their market share and bring that party to an end just fizzles out when it gets to the finish line.
Also, how inept do you have to be General Motors? General freaking Motors, and you can't put together an electric vehicle. Like, you can't go to people, like all the little individual vendors like Nikola did, and just put something together. How depressing is that if you're General Motors? It's like, we're General Motors. We can't even get together some ODMs to make some stuff for us.
Are you suggesting we shouldn't have bailed them out?
Okay, so... But what about the idea that the major operating principle of every car company in the industry, except for Tesla, is just keep this party going as long as possible? Because the minute we make a good electric vehicle,
we're all done.
What's it going to do to everything else we've ever done?
Yeah.
I'll still buy them GM. So the old remember when Huawei was the boogeyman instead of TikTok? Oh, such fun times that was. Well, Huawei is still banned. They are still not allowed to buy Android put on their phones, and that has hurt them. But maybe they've finally solved the problem, and in record time.
Huawei's Harmony OS is coming to smartphones. So the article likens this to AOSP, so kind of like Android, but not Android, but kind of like the open source parts, but rolled into an operating system. I don't think Huawei can be as far along with this as they claim to be, unless they've done business with some other company and rebadged something some other people have done, which is probably going to have to be done under the table. It's like the whole Iran deal where it's like, oh, Iran is buying this technology from, Raytheon, but not really.
But what if they were talking about maybe open sourcing it. I'm sure that's limited, but what if they did just straight open source it and make it the best mobile operating system without all the trash?
That would be incredible.
That would be the most amazing gambit that they could play, and Google could do nothing against that.
Well, I mean, you joke about that, and not to go off on a tangent here.
I'm not joking about that.
I mean, well, one of the things in our economic sanctions thing is that China is not fairly competing in a capitalistic way because they're subsidizing the cost for companies. So imagine you have a company that's basically propped up by the government.
Tesla?
Literally almost any U.S. giant corporation, but continue.
Yeah. You have a company that's propped up by the government that doesn't actually have to make a profit. Then once it corners the market, it can charge whatever it wants. And so it's the long game. It's the really, really, the super, super, super long game. But with open source, you could still achieve that. So like if China wants to support the open source part of it, you can supplant every other company out there. And if you're subsidizing the development cost, if other companies want to use that technology, fine, let them. But you're still subsidizing the cost of that software. You're going to be the first one with the software or whatever. And it's a better outcome for everybody while also still cornering the market for whatever that thing is. Because, yeah, like you say, if you come up with something as good as Android, but it's fully open, immediately everybody's going to be rolling that out on their own hardware. It's like, oh, I've got a Samsung phone that's got Android. Nope, I'm going to wipe that. I'm going to install my own thing as long as it's supported because that's actually better and I trust it. And the encryption is not backdoored by the CCP or whatever.
And the innovation is free and way more rapid.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to disrupt, that's how you should do it. And that, how is that not ethical?
Problem is it doesn't make as much money, although it could if the alternative is you're locked out of the system.
Yeah.
So it could be, what if Donald Trump accidentally revolutionizes the openness of the mobile phone? Do we give him a Peace Prize for that?
Well, it just
seems.
seems.
We nominate him?
I mean, it just seems like at the end of the day, cryptography is math, and the math has to be open, and it seems like that is the only. Inevitably, that's where we have to go. Everything has to be open to be sure there's no backdoor, and even when the math is open, the implementation can still have a backdoor. So you got to be careful.
Well, openness is kind of what another Chinese company is doing, and it is because, again, their hand is being forced. And it's not really open, but it's more like, hey, you bought this product and you want to run it just on your own without our involvement? Well, previously they were like, you're crazy. We'll never allow that. But because of the government involvement...
Drone firm DJI promises quote-unquote local data mode to fend off U.S. government's mooted ban. So... basically, if you buy one of these drones, it sends an awful lot of data to DJI servers, which happen to be in China. So it's saying, hey, we'll let you run local data mode. We're not going to get anything. We don't care. Just, buy our products. And there was also a third-party audit that did an audit with this stuff, and they didn't find anything objectionable, according to the executive summary, which they released and the third-party auditors confirmed. Although DJI won't release the full report. And a couple of things that the auditors did find was that in a few places for like the control pads, DJI is using some old versions of Android that maybe have some security issues. But the auditors didn't find any intentionally baked in backdoors or anything like that. But still, the government's problem is that, you could have drone surveillance that might include a military base or a military installation or whatever, and all of that is ultimately going to end up on a Chinese server, which is maybe bad news. But this takes that feature out.
Now, we covered a lot of Theranos, the blood testing company that was basically lying about everything. And, whenever I talked about Elizabeth Holmes, I called her crazy eyes because she's got crazy eyes. A lot of people took issue with that. Now, I'm not a big believer in saying I told you so, especially not on the news broadcast. But I can't help it this time. I told you. Crazy eyes.
Theranos Holmes may pursue mental disease in her defense. Yeah, literally, she's like, I can't help but lie about things. That may be one of her defenses.
What disease causes that?
Megalomania?
Something that maybe makes you manic. I don't know.
Delusions of grandeur?
So the virus has postponed this. I don't think it's going to happen till March. But it seems like, she might be going for the insanity plea. Because without that, oh boy, is she guilty.
She's in trouble. She's in danger.
Danger.
They had an expert comment in the article, and they were like, it's real hard to say that you actually have insanity to get out of a thing like this. And based on her entire history, I don't think that's going to work. Unfortunate. We all were kind of wondering how will, you think about all the darkness that's happened in 2020 and all the things that have been canceled and postponed, but it's like, what about the Xbox?
Well, it was postponed.
Will we have the Xbox?
Yes, but it was postponed.
Yeah, but
now we know when it was postponed.
They said holiday.
Yeah.
That's holiday.
Xbox Series X. I think it's Series X, right? Not Series 10. Launches November 10th for $499. Because it would have been cool if it was Xbox Series 10 on November 10. 10. Oh, wait, 11. Oh, they missed it by one. 9, 10. I mean, 11, 10.
You'll get to enjoy your new Xbox for about 3 weeks before the second Carrington event happens.
But this will be right after the election. So what if all the Best Buys are on fire? And the Amazon trucks. And the Postal Service.
Tell you what, we'll do another Level 1 live news.
Has Sony announced? I don't think there's any word from Sony yet.
They'll probably be around the same time.
They're getting a late start. I think sometimes it's more advantageous to come second, though, isn't it?
How terrible would it be if if Sony had already planned this on the same day and they're just like, now do we go a day earlier? Do we go a week earlier? Do we go later? What do we do?
I would go pre-election.
Yeah.
That would be my move. The next generation games are becoming $10 more expensive across the board. A lot of people are upset about that, but it also is being argued that all the microtransactions and monetizations and DLCs and just picking away at us with our games, where does it end? And EA says, nowhere near where it is now. We're going to take it so much farther.
EA pulls ads from UFC 4 replays after widespread complaints. Oh, and they won't be coming back either. These were not banner ads or anything like that. They were full screen takeover overlay ads. It's like, oh, you want to watch a replay of that? Nope. You'll watch an Amazon ad first.
Here's the really insidious part about this. The ads were not there on launch day. They waited 2 weeks, which is the average review window for a game. So reviewers did not have to deal with the ads, but when that window was over, welcome to the ads.
What's that ads? More ads.
Chris, was that a yawn or a sigh of disgust?
It was both. I was like mid-yawn, but then you said that and I was like, ugh. So it just a weird noise came out instead.
So right to repair, that's getting a lot of traction. And certainly in a time when you can't always buy a new thing easily because all of a sudden the supply chain sees up and you can't get delivery. And, it really sucks. Like if something breaks, you might be looking at 2-3 weeks before anything happens. So right to repair, more important than ever. And it's got a lot of, groundswell behind it. Almost everybody wants it except for the companies. So they have to try and find some sort of narrative to beat it back down. And they're really grasping at straws.
The auto industry pushes a BS claim that the right to repair laws aid sexual predators. If you guys haven't seen this TV ad because, you're not into the whole TV thing, you got to watch the TV ad. Like, just go watch this. Like, we don't even have to play it or whatever. But they're literally saying that right to repair means that bad guys could hack into cars and use the cameras in the car to follow you around. And it's like, dude, Elon Musk is already doing this for number one. Number two, really? Come on.
How do we know that he's not a sexual predator?
I mean, really, this is insane. Are voters going to believe this? This is totally nuts.
Yes, they absolutely will.
But so, their argument is that like a little mom and pop car repair shop could be a front just for sexual predators.
See, it's funny,
Do sexual predators have that much money to spend on little mom and pop shops to install cameras?
Who's saying that sexual predators don't work at the car dealership? I'm sure at least some of them do.
The crazy thing is that in Michigan law, this was already, like, right to repair was already a thing. And the law only specifies that it has to open onboard diagnostics. And so a lot of stuff has moved from the ODB bus to CAN bus or something. And that is where all of the internal telemetry is now. So as a result of legislation, vehicle companies have made it harder to do repairs by moving some of the telemetry and computers and stuff deliberately to another network inside the car that is exempted from the law because the law names specific things. And so this law is a much broader law to actually address another right to repair law. So this is not really a new law. This is just closing a loophole that auto manufacturers have been shamelessly exploiting since the other law passed. And so they're freaking out because they don't want people to repair their cars. But they really, I mean, that's all it is.
ODB is also how you do your Tesla hack and how I override the 4-cylinder mode in my car. And so they would like to remove that.
And how they detected the Tesla hack was there's another network that runs in parallel, and they were able to use that network to look at the ODB network because it's otherwise not detectable on the ODB network.
And they're encrypting all of the other traffic, which you're not allowed to do because ODB is a standard.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bad. Bad times. And moving on to the security section, even more bad times. And you guessed it, speculative execution is once again targeted by researchers.
You had speculative execution on your bingo card for the week of September 13th, 2020. Congratulations. Security researchers detail a new blind-side speculative execution attack. This one's pretty bad, it seems like. It does affect Zen CPUs as well as Intel CPUs. And it has to do with trying to create a program so that the program will, if it's the predictive execution happens, it'll crash in a certain way. And eventually they're able to use it to get root access on a machine and dump the password hash and some other things on a Linux machine. So it's kind of impressive. It's not super practical yet, but they say that this technique could be used with other, like chained together with other types of exploits to make it really dangerous.
Oh, I bet Fancy Bear is looking at this right now. That is also the CIA.
Yeah.
So one, we talk about businesses that have continued to thrive among the most trying of times, and big tech, telecommunication, obviously stuff like that. But one that you don't think about, ransomware. 2020 has been one hell of a year for ransomware.
It really has.
And more people are just paying it because what else do you do? Well, the numbers have come in based on the insurance claims.
Ransomware accounted for 41% of all cyber insurance claims in the first half of 2020. The claim size ranged from $1,000 to well over $2 million per security incident. And I've got some news for you. If word gets out that you're a company that pays a ransom, you're going to have a much harder time.
I wouldn't even file a claim for $1,000. I'd keep that quiet. Jesus.
54% just through email phishing.
Yeah, it's almost always, the first story, email phishing.
City of Hartford postpones the first day of school after a ransomware attack. Ransomware attack impacted the IT systems that the school district used to manage school buses and transportation routes. It's like, look, computers are shut down. There's nothing we can do. There's no backups. Our IT administration we haven't taken seriously and or run it correctly. We've got one guy managing 1,000 machines that works 90 hours a week. Is that wrong? Should we not do it that way? It's like, oh man.
And somebody got phished. So does that mean that the buses are just totally GPS? You don't know your route?
You'd be surprised how much work goes into some of the bus routes. I mean,
no, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm saying like,
I would think the bus driver would just learn it. Yeah.
Well, I guess from semester to semester it would because you got different kids, right?
Yeah.
Or year to year.
Depending on where they go and that kind of thing. But the bus drivers mostly would be okay.
But I think it seems like this affected several things, not just the bus route. Do you think this was someone to prevent kids from going back to school? This actually
I think this was just, somebody in Cambodia.
A precocious 12-year-old.
No, this was a professional ransomware. So yeah, the problem with that is their systems were all connected. So you shut down the bus system, you shut down, everything just goes down. You're done. Now this Chilean bank, they did it right because they had their important monetary systems separated. So when some idiot, in an office somewhere got a phishing email, it did not destroy the entire bank. Thankfully.
No. Chilean bank shuts down all branches following a ransomware attack. Banco Estado, Standard Bank, is that what that means? They will remain closed on Monday and possibly more days. They're still closed as of this weekend, I think, unless anybody's in Chile and wants to let us know. But yesterday when I was looking at it, it was like, no, they're still shut down. They're still cleaning up. But their monetary systems were not affected because they're not connected to anything.
Chris, do you want to read this announcement from their tweet?
Información importante sobre nuestra red de atención.
That's not bad.
I don't speak any Spanish. And someone who speaks Spanish probably
It's like, it is bad.
No habla español.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. And that's true because I don't speak Spanish.
So...
This is a reminder. This story is a reminder. You should keep some cash on hand in case your bank
right.
gets screwed.
Also in case of kidnapping.
Yes. The most important thing.
Also in case of pandemic.
Now, some people, we've done stories before. There was actually one couple. Were they in Florida, I think? It was just an older couple, and they're like, they won't stop sending us things. And they just kept getting Amazon packages. And it was just random items, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And they contacted Amazon, and Amazon's like, well, they're paid for. Just enjoy them. I don't know. But they were terrified by it. And they were like, why would anybody do this? Well, it turns out there's a special kind of scam. And really, if you're affected by it, it's kind of a little bit of a gift. It doesn't hurt you.
Is it though? Because you pull up your credit report and it's like, what?
No, I don't think it, because your card wasn't involved. So
well, it talks about how your identity may be involved.
But as a society, it hurts us because this is a big part of the problem on sites like Amazon, where it's like, oh, 4.5 stars. This must be a decent product, and then your car's on fire.
The brushing scam that's behind the mystery parcels. So what happens is you get these things, seeds or whatever, or the free stuff in the case of the old couple, but the account that was used to send you that is probably a hacked account that was used to leave a review so that you have a positive review. It's basically scamming the Amazon review system so that more people will think it's legit and buy products and that kind of thing. But you actually have to have tracking numbers and all this metadata to try to combat fakes. But it turns out that if you can mail somebody some seeds for less than $1 US or $1 or $2 US, that's economically worth it because you could be catapulted to the top with all those positive reviews.
Yeah, you spend a couple $100. It's a lot of reviews.
The thing we received in the mail, this was like over a year ago. We got like a little freezer bag. None of us ordered it, and we had to look this up. But yeah, I don't know why we have it. We just kept.
You got brushed.
We did.
Your account was compromised in some way.
See, I looked all over that because I was like, "What? Something bad happened?" But nothing's bad has happened.
Well, no,
yet.
they point out they can get your address from a number of public.
Yeah, or it could have been leaked in something.
Yeah, so I mean the voting registration. A lot of people don't know the voting database has a lot of your info in it, and you can buy that.
Yeah.
So I got to admit I didn't read this one. This was submitted by one of the editors.
Nice.
And I forgot to read it. So I hope you did.
Yeah, it's fine. New steps to combat disinformation. So Microsoft is rolling out free tools that anybody can use. You can submit your stuff, and it's an AI. It's another, it's that arms race of like deep fakes and then AI to look at the deep fakes and then new AI to outwit the AI that is looking for the deep fakes. And so Microsoft is giving you access to those tools so that you can upload photos and video, and it'll say, hey, we think something fishy is going on with the video in this area, like something it's been altered in a very subtle way here, or it's been changed or whatever. It'll look for that and try to tell you.
So basically this is going to speed us toward a world where nothing is real.
Yeah. Well, how long before you've got an official government thing that comes out and you upload it to that and it's all red, and then you have like the FTC or the FCC breathing down Microsoft's neck to be like, no, this video must be green.
Yeah.
It's like, is this propaganda?
Or you submit it and it's just all blacked out.
Yeah, I think it was like the BBC or somewhere had an interview with a little old lady from Germany, and it was like the tanks were like rolling outside their apartment building, and it was like the guy on the radio says everything's fine, and like her grandma was like, "Oh yeah, Goebbels would never lie about that. I mean, it must be fine." It's like, but grandma, there's Russian tanks out in the street. We wouldn't. Are you saying he wouldn't lie about that?
And that's the end of part 2 of the live news stream.
So let's thank all the super chats. JD says, "Hi guys, I always watch the Level 1 news throughout the week, and you guys always make me laugh. Good luck in November." Yeah.
Thanks. You too. Good luck in the wars to come.
I'm going to start saying that to everybody. Good luck in November.
Send your emails with that.
PH Gamer says, Linus released a video and he gave up on virtualizing with AMD and switched to Intel using Unraid. Can you do a build where it works? That's a good idea. Quana Ruiz, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. For alcohol wipes, you might consider industrial supply websites or locally. Lots, I guess it depends where you are, ship sell to individuals.
These aren't alcohol. These are,
well,
they're not bleach either.
Yeah.
There's some, cocktail of...
Daniel Kim says, "I would die for Krista" from the Level 1
Aw. Don't do that.
Prove it.
Don't put that evil on me.
Ashine, Chatune, I don't think I pronounced that correctly, says, "Still can't see the one tab post. Where is it?" It was posted shortly thereafter. Wegas Guja, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, says, "Hello from Latvia. This is the best news show." Well, thank you.
That's the place with all the potato jokes.
Is it?
Yeah, you've never seen like the. I mean, it's kind of copy pasta on the internet.
They're demanding a refund. PH Gamer again says, "Cars shouldn't be allowed to be updated over the air. Windows experience has shown that." I don't know. I wouldn't. If there's a vulnerability that's discovered in the Tesla because everything's also wireless, that would be bad. NADA says, "What was that RISC V board with the PCI you had?" That's their development kit with the PLX or with the FPGA for the PCIe bus. So that's the one. It's the development kit with PCIe. PH Gamer says, "Will the gateway laptops include Bonzi Buddy?" That's good. That's probably some malware.
You still
on
had
there.
you had to download that even in those days. It didn't come pre-installed.
There was like some really bad software that like hid the Windows user interface to try to make it more skeuomorphic, and it was just bad. Mike North says, "More speculative execution vulnerabilities. Sometimes I feel like we should never have taught Sam to think." Oh, you should hold up the mug.
Oh, I don't have the mug here. I'm using a random mug.
That Mike North was making a joke for the teaching Sam to think was a mistake. Mug, which you can buy at store.level1tax.com.
Store.level1tax.com.
All right, everybody, we're gearing up for installment number 3, which includes nonsense. Like Sean Rama says, "Please acknowledge our parasocial relationship."
Acknowledged. Someone else was like, "Do you guys ever look at the chat?" I have been looking at the chat through the stories. YouTube wants to censor things randomly, and I've been trying to go through and approve them as they come up, but I've missed a few.
What's been your favorite chat?
I'm laughing more at the ones that it's trying to censor, because it's like if there's any swear word in it, it's like no. But sometimes it lets it through. Yeah.
It's because of the advertising.
Well, I was telling it to go through. Hopefully that doesn't affect it. But...
Oh no! What have you done?
Oh no!
So this is Robot and Nonsense we're about to start, which is normally the Friday news.
I didn't send it to Krista.
Yeah, you didn't send me the one tab. I gotta post it in the chat. Is it smoky there yet? It kind of was hazy yesterday, but it's raining. It's been raining for like 24 hours now. East Coast life. We actually get rain here.
Woo!
Does Wendell need a booster seat? See, I see a different camera angle than you guys do. I'm looking at the webcam that like looks down.
Wendell is, so we have all different height seats. Normally Krista's in this one, and I'm in that one, and Wendell's in a slightly smaller one. But the slightly smaller one is the least comfortable.
Yeah.
So with Krista not here, it's kind of...
See, someone put "fuck censors," and now I have to like manually approve that in the chat.
And now you've demonetized.
Sparrington says, "Message retracted." Thank you, Sparrington.
Freak YouTube. Also censored by YouTube. Had to manually approve that.
Did you post the one tab yet?
No, it's not in there. I haven't been sent it yet.
Greetings from
What?
Norway, says
Oh.
Marius JS.
I didn't press send.
How tall are you? We're all very tall. We're tall people.
Oh, let's make it easier on the editor.
Woo! We know how to party here. We got the Lysol wipes and the Coke Zero.
We've been eating so many Lysol wipes. We're so high right now.
I really wish that
Buying and consuming stamps.
we got snack size Oreos downstairs, and it's like I could go for some snack size.
What
Oreos.
about your pecan pie?
Oh
Well,
yeah.
that's for after dinner, though.
All right, Krista, just give us the heads up.
So it just censored Frick.
You're never
But
going to win against the algorithm, Krista.
Yeah.
I'm confused why it censors sometimes and others.
That's
it
for the
doesn't.
Canadians.
I posted the one tab link.
Okay.
Are you good? You got your tabs?
We're ready for the virtual Friday.
All right. So first, we will start with a fascinating article. I don't know. I mean, I was reading it and I was like, I don't know if I believe this because it's really well done. It's got some really good, well thought out ideas. Now they do admit they did some editing, but they claim they edit just as much for the humans. I don't know if I buy it.
Yeah. A robot wrote this entire article. Are you scared yet, human? We asked GPT-3, OpenAI's powerful new language generator, to write an essay for us from scratch. The assignment to convince us that robots come in peace. Well, it actually 3 essays. They wrote 3 essays, and then human editors rearranged things and put things together from each of the 3 essays. The quote-unquote most compelling things from each of the 3 essays were what they put in together in this. And they said, hey, we normally do that with human writers as well, because the stuff we get from human writers is trash. And then the editors take that turd and polish it.
You think the cutting room floor paragraphs were like, humanity will be destroyed, robots number 1. Also, do you think the Matrix crawl is the most overused stock photo in the history of tech stock photos?
Yeah, it really is.
A brilliant piece of design for the guy that came up with it. You got to admit.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. It's aged well.
The thing though with this article is that one of the AIs was like, hey, AIs need equal rights, and it's like, oh, but you just said that you're a mindless automaton. Does a mindless automaton need equal rights? I found that not compelling.
It also says that it would never decide on its own to destroy humanity, but it might be programmed to. Well, it's like you don't decide on your own to do anything.
Isn't that one of the philosophical things? Is that Lao say? It's like, I don't know.
No, that was like the rules of robotics or whatever. Like, it was in a sci-fi book, but I can't remember the name of the author.
Well, Asimov had the 3 laws.
You know what the robot was capable of doing, and unfortunately we contributed to? Get clicks.
Yeah.
This article was weird. When I added this, I thought, oh, so is AI like trying to find new and amazing ways to play chess against the old AI? And it's kind of not what's happening here. It's just that the Go program that Google had has turned its eyes on chess, and it is now the god of chess, whereas other chess computers are all terribly inferior.
AI ruined chess. Now it's making the game beautiful again. Former world champion teams team up with the makers of AlphaZero to test variants on age-old game that can jolt players into creative patterns. So basically, it talks about how if you ever watch a chess match or you ever watch certain things open, it's like, oh, that's the such and such opening, and like the first dozen moves or the first 20 or 30 moves like have been the same since chess grandmasters for like forever. They're just really brilliant opening moves. And this is talking about how this AI is so good that it's just going off in other directions. And maybe that's making people think about, oh, maybe we shouldn't just have the same half a dozen different openings every time.
I also talked about different kinds of chess games. I didn't know about the Fisher chess, where you randomize the back row every game so that it increases, the number of... You can never memorize all of the move sets. So every game you do have to think about. That's an interesting way of doing it.
Is that an alternate rule set? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby Fischer came up with it because he recognized that everybody was just working off of memory.
Well, memory is easier than thinking. It takes less energy. And so your brain naturally is like, I'll just memorize that instead of having to think through it.
You memorized that. So we're still dreaming about drones bringing our items to us, especially in these dark times. And again, I read these headlines and I think back to reading the same headline last year.
Yeah.
And they were saying the same thing last year. Where are they? They're not over my house.
Walmart to test drone delivery of grocery and household items. They tried having the alternative version of the headline here is, we tried having our minimum wage workers find and deliver to your house, but it turned out they just didn't care. We're going to try drones now.
Look at him.
That looks sort of like ominous. Like the drone looks really sort of military, and then there's like the happy Walmart bag in the foreground.
Yeah. Also, that bright blue color is going to be so easy for people to shoot down and steal. Might want to make it white or gray so it doesn't stand out against the sky. And so that planes can hit it. Drones are very popular, though, among the hobbyists, and they're a good way to get a look at something that you might otherwise have to pay to see.
Watch this. Yankees-Rays game stopped in the first inning because of drone delay. It was baseball's third drone delay of the year. So you can't go in person, obviously. How else are you going to watch the game? Oh, yeah, with a drone.
I guess they think that it's going to bomb them? Is that why they stopped? Because everybody got off the field.
I don't know.
But what would you do if there were people in the seats? Because you can't move everybody out of the seats.
Well, they're just
Well,
going to
screw
have
those
to be hit
people.
by
They
a
don't make
propeller.
money for the league.
That's true.
The audience isn't important. The other people make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duh.
So they are doing everything they can to track down the individual. I think they might have made an arrest.
Wow.
That should be a priority. In times like these, there's nothing else going on that is crime, right? It's not like anything's on fire. Now, Krista, were you in the vicinity of Tel Aviv this weekend?
No.
Oh.
Went hiking in Tel Aviv. It's a
Yeah,
13-hour flight.
It took forever.
Headline.
Oh, you want me to read this title? I'll read it. Drone makes it rain weed in Tel Aviv.
Literally. And figuratively. So it turns out that weed's legal there for medical purposes. But this was just, hey. This was organized by...
They want recreational, I think.
Okay.
Oh, is it? They're working towards something here. This is they are propaganda in a way of saying, hey, this should be legal. There you go. That was the size of them. Now they dropped them over a park, but there was a heavy wind that they didn't account for, and some of them blew into traffic. And as you
And got
might
ran over.
expect,
No.
no, well, the people ran into the traffic after them.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh, people ran over them, or like they
Oh.
got washed down storm drains, and that was plastic waste that ended up in our ocean. But no, that's also terrible.
You're not thinking about the motivation of free weed, Krista. You got 2 gram bags, and it dropped something like 300 grams in total, I think. Which is a kilo. I don't know how to convert that into grams, chat.
What is that in American?
Anyway, they have arrested 2 people. How dare you?
We were just having some fun. Why you got to do that?
I didn't include it, but the spot went on sale in like 5 more countries today. If you're Canadian, you can finally get yourself a spot. What were they, 75 grand?
Yeah, there's the base price
Yeah.
is 75 grand. But by the time you get all the accessories and stuff, you're spending like 150.
It's like a Tesla. So, yeah, if you're, be excited about that if you live in one of those other countries. One of the, I don't think these are Boston Dynamics, but God, do they look like them.
It's Boston Dynamics.
If they're not a rebrand, then there's a lawsuit somewhere. The Air Force has their own version of them, and they are now training with them.
Robot dogs join the U.S. Air Force exercise, giving glimpse at potential battlefield of the future. There's all sorts of useful scenarios these robots can handle already, which is pretty awesome.
So the one they did here, they landed one of those Hercules planes, and they simulated a hot landing, but instead of sending out, the scout squad, they just sent out the dogs to get a full view of the battlefield. And everybody was back in the plane, heavily armored, looking at screens saying, okay, where's the enemy? Not bad. Although like, of course, war in all of its forms is incredibly wasteful. But how about, like, every time you land a plane, you got to send out 250,000 in dogs?
Yeah.
I guess human life is more valuable. Not really.
I don't know that the U.S. government thinks that.
This one, I, of course, added just to get your reaction to it. It's not good. It's not bad. It's
fake news.
It's a sign of the time. Is it fake?
Yeah.
Is it?
No, it's not real?
It says Star Trek on CBS.
It's not. They're not the first characters.
Oh, we're gonna get some trivia here.
Get some lore, Wendell.
BBC News says Star Trek to welcome the first transgender character. So there's a non-binary character, and then the first transgender character. And so,
which is which?
Does it matter?
Put your glasses up your nose and tell us who the original OG was in the old series.
So it's actually a really fascinating story. There was this episode. There was some stuff in the original series, but there's the particular episode I'm thinking of was from Next Gen, and it was the Riker. There was this androgynous race, and Riker fell in love with one of them. And the way that episode was originally written was there was a little bit of gender bending going on, and there was a little bit of Riker being like, I don't know why I'm attracted to this, but okay, I mean let's roll with it. And Rick Berman got a hold of it and was like, no, we're just not gonna. And so some of the romance was sort of played out there, and it became the sort of an asexual species, and they had feelings for Riker, and Riker had feelings for them, and that became the taboo. But that was not how it was originally written, and so they left it kind of ambiguous in the way that it was shown on screen, but there was definitely something there with that.
But now it does say character, but I think both of these actors are also the same, so that might be the first.
Okay, yeah, that might be the first, yeah.
Also, if it never made it to the storyline and it was cutting room floor, I don't think we count it.
Yeah, that's just trivia, right? That's not.
It's still, the story was still there. It's left open to a little more interpretation than being it's on the nose is like telling you exactly what it is. So like if you watch the episode and you're like, oh, that's what's going on, or his own confusion about what he's attracted to is because he's not attracted to the right gender or whatever.
What pronoun was used during this episode?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
Because you're a bigot. Speaking of bigotry. It is the modus operandi of some people to find something that is successful and is led by people who maybe have some personality quirks, and then to weaponize those personality quirks to try and wrest control away from that person. Maybe even the person who literally invented it. This is the world we live in.
Linus Gate, over 250 messages about code of conduct complaints about Linus Torvalds. So you guys might have seen this. This is actually really old messages from Linux conference from like 2014. So this is like old news, and somebody's just trying to drum up some controversy over this kind of thing. But I like the way that you summarized it, because it's like let's weaponize personality quirks to try to deal with this. Linus Torvalds is fairly inflammatory in a lot of the stuff that he says. That's
a huge prick, I think we could say.
Yeah, but he's actually said after this, there's like, I should probably try to tone it down a little bit and try to improve and be a little bit more responsible, which is good enough for me.
Here's the question though. So you know how like there are YouTube channels that are dedicated to like YouTube drama, and then they just summarize what's happened over the course of a series of months? Has someone done that for this?
Yeah, whatever this website is.
No. I don't want the
Linux
article. I want someone just sitting in front of a webcam and talking about how they have the tea on.
I don't think Linux community is that more like a vlog type people so much.
And it should be. There's a gap in the market.
But they're also, I don't think they're people who care about this kind of stuff. It's all about results. And you can't argue that the man doesn't get results. He invented it.
You think that if Linux was in more of an infancy and this kind of stuff was coming up, he's just like, you know what, the internet was a mistake. Let's just turn this off.
I don't know that he doesn't eventually nope out, because honestly, I don't think that he can change his personality. I think he's kind of hardwired to be that way, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. Well, and as he levels up his own skills, it's easy to imagine that his patience with others might be less, because he's like, why aren't you keeping up?
And this kind of thing is just being more and more normalized by the corporations who are desperately trying to fend it off by kowtowing to it. So it only emboldens them. It's we're rushing headlong into a darkness that you can't imagine.
Yeah.
And another kind of darkness that you can't probably imagine, but Jesus, what a way to go. Imagine being devoured by a cloud of mosquitoes.
I can imagine.
How many times have you imagined that, Krista?
No, I mean, I lived it last weekend. You probably can't tell, but I got eat up all up and down my arms.
Well, here's the difference, Krista. You lived.
I did live.
You are still with us, and you are not a 400-pound herd animal.
You don't know how I identify. I can't see the full title because of the ad blocker.
Oh no! Vicious little suckers. Go ahead.
I'll read what I can see. Vicious little suckers. Massive clouds of mosquitoes kill cows, horses in
Louisiana after Hurricane Laura.
Yeah, there you go.
So listen to this, the horror of this. Try to put yourself in the mind of a cow. And you're just chilling out and you're eating your grass and you're feeling good. You know,
Right.
It's been a little rainy lately, but you're a cow. You deal with that fine.
A lot rainy.
And then all of a sudden, something's biting me. Oh, a lot of somethings are biting me. I don't have hands.
I only have a tail.
What am I going to do about it? So what they do is they run. But you know what? You know what mosquitoes can do? Fly. So they run and they run and they run until they collapse, and then they are exsanguinated by a cloud of mosquitoes.
That doesn't seem like a good way to go.
On the positive side, I think this is exactly what we should do to the gender reveal people who set that fire. I think this will be a great way.
We'll leave it up to the mosquitoes to met out your punishment.
We're not choosing to kill you or not. It's the mosquito god who's choosing. So apparently a lot of standing water after a hurricane. Guess who loves that? We have this story every week. I don't know if we had one last week because we didn't do the news last week, but I thought that was probably there because literally every week this happens.
Georgia Zoom hearing interrupted by images of 9/11, a swastika, and porn. So this was a hearing in Georgia to talk about voting machines and some other stuff. Pretty routine crap. And then somebody used the Zoom link and started broadcasting all kinds of stuff because Zoom's like, let me just go full screen for you. And some people don't know how to deal with that.
You guys doing the vote by mail? I got my thing in the...
Yeah, probably.
I haven't sent it back yet. I probably will, though. It's so convenient, but at the same time, I'm just wondering, it's like, somebody just going to shred them and burn on me? Yeah. But then, can we be sure about that for our regular votes? I mean, those machines are so compromised.
Theoretically, in the voter file, you can actually go look and see if your vote was recorded.
Can anybody do that, though?
Yeah.
Oh, just if it's recorded, not who it was for.
Yeah.
But remember the George Bush flips?
Yeah.
The hanging chads.
Yeah. So TikTok that's the big social media now, and all the big names, all the big celebrity names are switching over to TikTok. They want those TikTok followers. Dr. Phil is no exception, but TikTok might be a little too hip for him. He doesn't understand the lingo of the day.
Dr. Phil told his TikTok followers to stop calling him daddy because, quote, it's a little weird. And
he's not wrong in his defense.
He's like, you're probably insulting your real father. And it's like,
Guess what happened after that? You'll never guess.
Everybody started calling him daddy.
They already were. They just continue to. Why not? This story is it's kind of heartwarming. So here's the background that you need. During World War II, the Mars Corporation stopped selling all of their popular gums. Double mint, spearmint, and everybody's favorite, juicy fruit. The reason they did that is because they shipped that entire supply over to Europe. And I guess they sent some to the Asian theater as well. And gave it to the soldiers. And it was like this big patriotic thing. So a lot of the soldiers became, like, you don't have a lot of joy in your life, but you got this stick of gum. And so this guy fell in love with juicy fruit. And for the rest of his life, he is never without juicy fruit. And if you encounter him in the wild, he will offer you a stick of juicy fruit as well as World War II stories, which is what makes this so heartwarming.
World War II veteran will get his final wish to have a juicy fruit themed casket. So he was also best friends with an old folks home or something, and they're making this happen.
But here's the darkness. The Mars Corporation, who owns Wrigley's and Juicy Fruit and everything, originally got this request, and they were like, no, we own that. You will not use it. But thanks to the beauty of social media and a harassment campaign that ensued, he will be getting his Juicy Fruit coffin.
Nice.
The thing I want to know, like, why juicy fruit? Because it tastes good, but only for like a minute before it's out of flavor.
Krista,
there's so many other better Wrigley's flavors.
I think when you're, immersed in the horrors of war, if you have any little shred of humanity that you can hang on to.
You're sitting in a foxhole in Carrington. Juicy Fruit tastes pretty damn good.
But why wouldn't you trade it for a better flavor?
You think the mint flavors are better?
Yeah, because they last longer.
Oh, well, this guy would disagree with you wholeheartedly.
Well,
They also sent him 250 bags of Juicy Fruit, which sadly
What's he going to do?
might last him the rest of his
Hand
life.
it out at the funeral?
He's not. He had heart trouble, and that's what brought this on, but apparently he's recovering.
Oh, wow. I thought that he was like on death's doorstep.
He was, but now it seems like he's getting better. But for when the time comes, he's got the okay for the coffin. Yeah. Which is great. Another dark story. It's really weird considering the level. We're enmeshed in technology, and we got these billions of transistors doing these amazing things. And in some parts of the world, they're still Stone Age. They know nothing about this. They are the uncontacted. And there's a question of, it's like the Star Trek question.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on
Prime
this?
directive, yeah.
You think we leave them alone?
Well, if we're going to leave them alone, we need to not, keep taking away their rainforest.
Well, see.
Why now to contact them during a pandemic when you know that they probably don't have good immune systems? It's like, you know what? We need to go see them now. Now is the important time.
Remember the story where the scientist managed to teach gorillas that they were going to die?
Yeah.
I just got depressed. Anyway, that's the big thing is like, okay, should we contact them? Should we not? Well, the deforesting people and the farmers don't really care about any of that. They just want rainforest land to exploit. So things like this.
An expert on Amazon tribes was killed by an arrow from an uncontacted group. So Riel Franciscado was struck in the chest as he approached the indigenous group he was seeking to shield. So he was struck in the chest just above his heart. He made the mistake of pulling the arrow out. You would think somebody in his position.
It's
it's
the Steve Irwin mistake.
Yeah, it's hard to resist the temptation. But he ran for 50 meters and then he just collapsed.
So he was actually so there were people who were slashing and burning past the the line that's like, no, this is indigenous land, and he got the call like Batman. He was the guy you call, and he ran out there, and the soldiers had already responded to the burning, so they were out there waiting with their bows. They got him. They shanked him.
Is it better? This is maybe a weird pedantic question. If you get shot in the heart with an arrow, is it better to leave it in?
I don't think it matters because he was so far away from any help.
That's true.
I don't think it would have.
I think you leave it in.
But technically, yeah, because you will exsanguinate almost immediately.
Yeah,
that was the Steve Irwin thing.
Yeah, Steve Irwin, the medical examiner, said he probably would have lived if he hadn't just instinctually pulled it out.
Yeah. Although, like you say, I mean, you're in shock. It hurts. Yeah, what are you gonna do? This is the old Jurassic Park story. Now there is a little bit of a hiccup, and I have my suspicions. But the headline sounds amazing.
St. Louis Zoo says the python laid 7 eggs without male help. So this is a relatively elderly python, like over 60, and they thought this was kind of weird because over 60 no male contact. But it turns out the pythons can actually do that. They can store sperm for any period of time.
2 decades.
But
are you telling me life finds a way?
Life may have found a way.
Now here's the thing. She's been pregnant 3 times, and One of the other times was because they were putting her in the same bucket as the other male python. He's not in her enclosure, but they drop him in the same bucket. And nature found a way. Several times, probably. And so they're saying, like, well, he wasn't anywhere around, but I wonder if maybe he's, like, tunneled a little hole over it. And they just don't know. Seems suspicious. They none of her eggs hatched previously. They are incubating several of these, but they took a couple of them and just destroyed them so they could figure out if she did the thing, whatever the name of the thing is.
They were actually
Genesis.
Yeah, they were actually fertilized or whatever, and some of them just were not viable.
Kind of harsh. This chick's living alone for 2 decades, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, babies!" And they're just like, "We'll take these. We'll have these. Thank you. Make more if you can." And some interesting things in aviation, although we really don't know many facts about it, other than 2 separate pilots reported this around the same time without having any contact with one another.
FBI investigating a report of a quote-unquote guy in a jetpack flying 3,000 feet in the air at LAX. Only in LA. No one has come forward to take credit for the stunt. Do we have this level of technology?
Yeah, I've seen some videos of people jetpacking.
They're usually over like water, though, right?
Usually.
Well, listen, how much confidence do you have in your product?
Or they're flying with a tether of some kind.
Yeah, the ones I've seen, there was another aircraft, and they were like holding on to a pole at the end of it. But clearly, they would have seen that, right?
3,000 feet, yeah.
This guy had to be doing his own thing.
One of the comments on the article is great. It says, jetpack at 3,000 feet seems unlikely. And I'm like, okay, I'm with you. His next sentence is, more likely a cryptid or flying humanoid.
Of course.
Now I'm lost.
Oh, it's the Los Angeles Mothman, of course.
The most obvious explanation. Cryptid. Cryptid is a word I see a lot, but I've never seen it before very recently.
Well...
It's like cryptozoology kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's Mothman, which has been a thing.
No, it's like a
the
blanket
80s.
term for all those kinds of things. It's a good word. This is a headline that we see so often. It's amazing. Although, you got to wonder, like, are these kids just not aware of this? Or are they just like, oh, I want attention. I really want attention.
12-year-old suspended in Colorado over toy gun seen in virtual class. It was a neon green gun that said, zombie something on it. But the article also says that he brandished it. So, I don't know.
I think it just held it up and showed them that it said zombie hunter. Why is the scrubber not?
He's in his own home with the toy. Like,
there it is.
Yeah, so...
Oh my God, News 13. Come on.
Yeah, so I don't know. Was he like if he was brandishing it menacingly, I'm okay with that. But if he was just like, look at my cool toy, it's a zombie hunter.
But he's in his own home.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
what danger is that? Unless like you really thought it was a real gun, but like it's bright green and says zombie hunter,
and it's got the little orange nub on the front. So the cops were called to the house. He was suspended for 5 days, and the parents were not notified until the cops were already there. So they got blindsided by this. The whole thing is just so ridiculous. And finally, my favorite story of the week, which is why I put it last, is...
those seeds we talked about earlier?
Now we did talk about the seeds already, and you're thinking, hey, you already did this story. But
no.
This is actually a study of what was through Freedom of Information by looking at how people are contacting the USGA and stuff like that. Or no, what is it? That's geological something. It was the USDA. Okay, yeah. What were people's reactions to the seeds? And I got to tell you, your impression of humanity might be pretty low already in 2020.
And then you read this.
Prepare a lower bar.
Hundreds of Americans have planted the Chinese mystery seeds. Oh, no. Literally the one thing they said not to do, because those plant species may be invasive. They may not be meant for here. They may not, they may supplant other more desirable plant species. This is
hundreds of kudzu vines.
Now,
that's just what it is.
They pointed out all the different kinds of seeds they were, because some people turned them in and they studied them. They were mostly just random, like onions and tomatoes. There were some weeds, but they were all native to North America. There was nothing really invasive. Some people said they grew mold, which is weird. How would you grow mold from a seed?
That's probably just someone overwatering their plant, and they're like, "Oh, it's growing mold." Like,
but the greatest ones, and the ones that really just like, you just close the laptop and you stare out into space, are the people who called and said, "Hey, I got one of those packets of seeds. I've eaten them. Am I in trouble?"
I've eaten so many.
Forbidden tomato. Forbidden onion.
Communist tablets.
Do you think they even like roasted them or anything, or do you think they just opened that bag?
There's no explanation, just that they ate them. Now, they did point out some people had ordered seeds from Amazon during this time. Just crazy coincidence, and they got them, and they were like, weird. They must have sourced these from Amazon, and then they planted them, and then they got the seeds from Amazon a day later, and they're like, oh god,
what have I done?
Chinese seeds.
Oh crap!
Some people claim that they were taking over. One of them said it was ivy, and it was taking over his lawn.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I bet it's kudzu.
But they got a list here of some of the it's really benign stuff. It seems like spearmint, hollyhock.
One of these is definitely pumpkin in the header image. That's like what I'm eating right now, and they look like pumpkin seed.
Look who's an expert on pumpkins all of a sudden.
That's the remnants of Lieutenant Dangle.
I grew one pumpkin, and now I'm an expert.
What are the you got plans? I mean, it's too late now, but what are your 2021 plans for pumpkins?
I'll probably grow them again. I actually saved some of the seeds. I didn't bake all of them, so I'll probably replant again and try it again in a bigger bucket.
Are you gonna shoot next season to maybe start a little later so you get your Halloween pumpkin?
No, they're a warm weather crop. You don't want to grow them when it starts to get cold. They won't produce right.
Well, how is it that we go by the pumpkin farm a month from now and they're just
they're already harvesting them now?
Do they last that long?
There's also greenhouses and stuff.
Yeah, like bigger farms actually, they'll harvest them.
I think you should shoot for a later pumpkin and a bigger pumpkin.
I do still have blossoms on mine, but I don't think it's going to produce anymore.
We've got a ton of super chats to read.
Oh yeah.
Is there an in-depth review of QNAP ZFS implementation Hero OS coming? Yes, I just got a really awesome QNAS thing. It's coming. Walker says, greetings from the West Coast. How do I turn on the render distance to get back the skybox? Oh, it's hopefully you get some rain like later today or tomorrow, or late tonight or tomorrow morning, or sometime through the day tomorrow. Rented Coupier says, thank you, Jiff. And Gabriel Foot also says, spinny chair, thank you, Jiff. So they're responding pictorially, which is cute. PH Gamer again says, wasn't Lol from Star Trek able to choose her own gender and race? Yes, that's true. PH Gamer says, screw those busybodies that are ruining open source. Those darn conduct rules is just to regulate what people say or punish people for certain thoughts. Yeah, the thought police really do bug me a little bit. Aco Street says, make this into a cappuccino. The USS Liberty incident says, thanks for being a reliable source of news and competing project. Ideas in these monotonous times. PH Gamer says, should just become a school, or I should just do homeschooling at this point. So,
thank you all.
That's it for the Level 1 news this week, unless you guys have any more questions.
We should do a Q&A again. We haven't done one in a while.
Yeah, we should.
Thinking about that the other day.
We should start a thread on the forum that is the Q&A, and then you can post there or post on Twitter, and it should be good.
Yeah.
But thank you all for tuning in on a relatively short notice live news. Thanks for letting us take last week off. And this is this week's news, all of it. You just got it all at once. This is what we like. We don't do it live, but this is what patrons and floatplane subs get immediately. And
we film it all at once. So like whenever you guys are like, how come you didn't include this story? It's because it's always filmed on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So
normally it's not live either, but we're going to try to do live events about once a month, probably about once every other month, really, until we can get into the routine of it, get used to it. But it's a lot of fun.
Hooray! Thank you for watching.
We will see you guys in the next one. Tune in next week. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe, although you can't favorite anymore, and subscribing really doesn't do anything. Oh, Ed Hughes just gets in just under the radar and says, ever thought of doing a video on distributed computing, perhaps using Linode and Ray? Thought about doing that with a little cluster of Raspberry Pis, because it's a lot of fun. You can use Ansible, and it's a lot of fun. And Jasmine says $2. Oh, that is the thing. Well, thank you. We will see you next time.
Yes.